The port city of southern India, Chennai, is all set for yet another blockbuster this weekend. It's time to step on the gas as drivers from all around the globe descend on the Madras International Circuit. The future stars will look to dazzle on the fast lane in the Indian Formula 4 races. Also, it's the start of the second season of the Indian Racing League, pitting the best in the business up against each other. The countdown has ended and it's almost time for the frenzied action to get underway. If you thought last year was good, this year is going to be even better. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Indian Racing League and also to the first ever season of the Indian Formula 4 Championship. We finally have a gateway from go-karts to race cars in India. And yes, we're here at the Madras International Circuit in Chennai, the home of Indian motorsport, and my word, what a place this is to be. Let's take a quick look at the calendar for the entire season. We've got multiple rounds, two of them actually here in Chennai. First, right here. Next month, we also get back to the MIC for a few more rounds. And then the big one, the Chennai Street Circuit at the start of December. That one is going to be an absolutely crazy circuit to race on. And it's a phenomenal opportunity for all these young drivers to test out their mettle at a circuit that they've never ever driven before. And then let's take a quick look at the calendar for the Indian Racing League as well. Somewhat similar, we've got two rounds of the Madras International Circuit and then, as I mentioned earlier on, the big one at the Chennai Street Circuit, right in the heart of the city, in the walls, in the night. That is going to be a race that all the drivers will tell their grandchildren about after they've raced over there. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Somal Arora and I'm so glad that we get to share all the stories of the Indian Racing League and also of the first ever Indian Formula 4 Championship with you. We're right here in Chennai and it's a new season. The atmosphere is electric and I've got Suhail Chandok right here with me. Fair to say broadcasting royalty, you've done so much in the world of racing and so many other sports as well. But what we can really tell is that the atmosphere here, Suhail, is unlike anything I've ever seen. New cars, new series. What does it feel like to be at MIC?
Yeah, good afternoon to you and to everyone at home as well. As you said, we're here at the Madras International Circuit. Rich history, as you said earlier, the home of Indian motorsport. The foundation stone was actually laid here by Sir Jackie Stewart back in 1972, the first race weekend in 1990.
Fun fact, actually on this very day, back in 1972.
Absolutely, actually my granddad was there at the time as well with that foundation stone being laid. But you know, the history, the rich history here, I remember growing up as a little toddler walking around here in the early 90s. In early February, we'd have amazing race weekends. To see back-to-back race weekends come here to the Madras International Circuit. It is a fantastic facility. We've got an international kart circuit coming up here as well. So I can't think of a better place for the IRL, but also for India's F4 Championship to kick off. Amazing atmosphere, great driver lineup. We've got drivers from 9 different countries when it comes to the IRL. So overall, I think we're in for a scintillating weekend.
Absolutely. And let's talk about Indian Formula 4 for a second right here. The first ever season of that. The best part is, these are all drivers that have done lots of go-kart racing and are taking their first step into car racing. For India, who's never had a Formula 1 driver since your brother last, actually, fun fact, we really needed something quite like that from a structural standpoint, and this completely changes the game.
Absolutely does. You think of youngsters like a Shahan Ali Mohsin at 17 years of age. For him, the transition from karts to single-seater racing can't be easier now with Indian Formula 4 coming in. Yes, we had the amount of challenge earlier in the past, but for us to have a real middle ground of guys who can go from powerful karting systems to then move from that ecosystem into Formula 4, then move into, say, Italian F4 or British F3 as well. You've now got a pathway, as you said, and I think that's something that was missing earlier, the gap between karting and then taking that leap between India and Europe, because when you take that jump to Europe, it is a massive leap. So for a lot of guys, yes, they've driven in Italian F4, but these Mégane cars are similar to the French F4 cars as well. So you'll get similar machinery from what we've seen in the past, but wonderful opportunity for a lot of young Indian guys to really test their mettle.
And absolutely, let's take a quick look at what the cars really are like, because I got a chance to go down in the pit lane yesterday, and my goodness, they are beautiful, but here's all the tech specs right here. And now let's talk about the most exciting part of this entire championship, the cars. Now, this Miguel Formula 4 car weighs roughly 525 kilos. And for context, have you seen a Maruti 800? This car is half the weight of a Maruti 800 and has 5 times as much power. And the reason why I mentioned that is because this carbon fiber body makes it super, super light. And when you speak to every single one of the drivers on the entire grid, there's one common adjective that they always talk about. They say it is freaky fast. And there's a reason behind that. It's got a fantastic 1.3-liter turbo engine that chucks out roughly 160 to 180 horsepower. And that means on a straight, you could go up to roughly 240 kilometers per hour. That's right, 240. It will absolutely blow your brains out. It's that fast. But at a circuit like the MIC, we'll go at roughly around 200 kph. But the straights, that's not the fun part. The fun really begins when you turn the car sideways, because cornering is what it does so well. And I'll tell you why it does that. Mainly two things, two forms of grip. Mechanical grip, aerodynamic grip. The mechanical grip comes in from the tires. And frankly, that's one of the biggest challenges for all the drivers, because these tires are super grippy. But when you've got conditions that are so hot, I mean, roughly 30, 35 degrees. If you go out for a walk here, you'll come back sweating. Imagine driving at the absolute limit. You will be boiling hot and your body will feel exhausted. And so, imagine the load on the tires. Maintaining grip is going to be a main challenge for all the drivers here. And then, the second part of the speed comes in from this, the side pod, the front wing, and also that gigantic rear wing that we've got at the back over here. These are aerodynamic components. Make sure that the car goes through the air as smoothly as possible, because through the corners, that is precisely what you need. I mean, you've all put your hand outside the window of a car and maybe let it go left, right, right? If there's less resistance, if you make your hand go this way, the hand glides through the air, which means it cuts through it, which means you go faster. That's the purpose of these devices. Now, one last thing I have to talk to you about. We know this car is fast. We know this car is light. Is it safe enough? And the answer to that question is yes. The reason behind that is firstly because of this halo. Now, you might be thinking, halo, what is this giant chappal or a flip-flop like thing on this car right here? But this is the most advanced safety device that we've seen in racing for quite a while. Apart from having a carbon fiber tub, this thing will really protect heavy impacts. In fact, you could have a giant wheel of a car coming in and crashing on this, but the driver will still be alive. That's how sturdy it is. Think of Romain Grosjean's accident in Formula 1. He went through an Armco barrier in a fireball and still survived. Big part of it is this halo, and also the carbon fiber structure. It makes it light, but also super sturdy. And frankly, that's what you need in a race car like this one. And one last thing. The biggest point, no electronics, no traction control, no ABS, no electronic aids. In fact, the traction control is the person sitting right here, the driver. That's the biggest variable right here in the Indian Formula 4 Championship, and that is what we're so excited to see. I'm still not overseeing those cars, Suhail. They are just
I'm still not over the sunnies, the change in look as well. It's a nice little persona shift. But yeah, I mean, those cars, look, they are the transition. Right? I remember with Naren and Karun back in the day, they had to go through Formula Asia, then head to Europe, find their feet over the first few years. But for guys like Akshay Bora, Rishan Rajiv, who only got here on Friday, Shahan Ali Mohsin, for them to test their mettle in Formula 4 machinery in India, it's a wonderful opportunity, because these are proper race cars that you're seeing around the world. Italian F4, French F4, British F4 championships as well. So you're finally racing similar category of machinery that you'll see across the globe, and therefore when you make that step to Europe or other parts of Asia or other parts of America maybe, you're quite settled. You don't have the nerves tingling as they often would.
Exactly, and that's just Indian Formula 4. That's not the only thing we have for you today. In fact, folks, we are back with Season 2 of the Indian Racing League as well. And I am so glad that we're back, Suhail, because last year, the amount of fun we've had with the racing, I mean, phenomenal action. And touchwood, the Wolf GB08 Thunder, that phenomenal car is back again. What do you think about it, frankly?
It's awesome. I think for anyone who hasn't heard it yet, there is a thunderous sound to it. 220 brake horsepower. You've got youngsters behind the wheel. As I said earlier, drivers from 9 different nations. You've got women behind the wheel as well. Young Ruhan Alva, again, top of the pops when it comes to qualifying, and I think he's going to be one to watch out for when we saw what he did last time around as well. So I think for a lot of Indian fans who are watching this crossover, it's sort of like a crossover between your limo sports cars and a single-seater racing car as well, but it sounds grunty. It's got that real buzz about it. So for anyone that's here, it is a beauty to look at. You can see some of the machinery on your screens at the moment, and you've got each of them in liveries that we've now gotten used to seeing as well. From last season, whether it's the Chennai Turbo Riders or the Speed Demons, you've got this iconic livery now, which a lot of fans are used to.
Yes.
So I think Season 2 makes it easier to recognize drivers, cars, teams, and we're set for a good one.
And the best part about it is we get to see some new drivers in the mix as well. Lots of Indian youngsters like Sai Sanjay, Mohammad Rayan, who have impressed on the Indian stage, now get to compete with the likes of Neil Jani, John Lancaster, Oliver Webb, Alvaro Parente. These are great drivers to test yourself up against. And in the long run, this is where career development really happens for them, right?
Yeah, absolutely does. And I think it's worth slipping into a short little breather because on the other side, we do have plenty of action still to come. We lead up to our first race, the Formula 4, coming your way.
India, it's lights out and away we go. The FIA Formula 4 India is here. Along with the Indian Racing League, 36 drivers, 6 teams, 2 championships coming to light up the streets of Chennai. More thrills, more adrenaline and plenty of action with India's first night race at the heart of Chennai. Are you ready? India, it's lights out and away we go. The FIA Formula 4 India is here. Along with the Indian Racing League, 36 drivers, 6 teams, 2 championships coming to light up the streets of Chennai. More thrills, more adrenaline and plenty of action with India's first night race at the heart of Chennai. Are you ready? India, it's lights out and away we go. The FIA Formula 4 India is here. Along with the Indian Racing League, 36 drivers, 6 teams, 2 championships coming to light up the streets of Chennai. More thrills, more adrenaline and plenty of action with India's first night race at the heart of Chennai. Are you ready? India, it's lights out and away we go. The FIA Formula 4 India is here. Along with the Indian Racing League, 36 drivers, 6 teams, 2 championships coming to light up the streets of Chennai. More thrills, more adrenaline and plenty of action with India's first night race at the heart of Chennai. Are you ready? India, it's lights out and away we go. The FIA Formula 4 India is here. Along with the Indian Racing League, 36 drivers, 6 teams, 2 championships coming to light up the streets of Chennai. More thrills, more adrenaline and plenty of action with India's first night race at the heart of Chennai. Are you ready?
Welcome back in, ladies and gentlemen, here at the Madras International Circuit. The grid is almost about to be lined up for the first ever Indian Formula 4 race. History is about to be in the making, and we've spoken about how this is so important for Indian motorsport. Let's also talk a little bit about the competitors. And the fun fact is, Suhail, 90% of them can't even drive a car on the road. They're not road legal. The average age of the grid, roughly 17, 18 years old.
And that's the difference here, right? When you have a racing license, you don't need to be road ready. It is in many ways, especially when it comes to Indian roads, a lot safer to be here on the Madras International Circuit. So a lot of drivers here in the Indian F4 Championship, they're 16, 15 even, 17 years of age, and I think when you look at some of the quick guys on the grid, you've got Akshay Bora. He's had the experience of driving in the Italian F4 Championship as well, so he's got the pace from there. You've got a Rishon Rajiv, who's just come in, Shahan Ali Mohsin, 19 years of age. You've got some international talent in the mix too. So I think you've got a lot of young guys who will use this as the platform to catapult themselves into the future as well. But what a series it is.
Absolutely, and I can't wait to see what happens on the grid. And we've got Karishma on the grid, soaking in the atmosphere down there.
I certainly am soaking in the atmosphere over here at the Madras International Circuit. The crowd is so exciting for some great racing that's going to take place over here for the Formula 4 India IRL. All the 11 drivers are ready. All guns are blazing. Our drivers have come from all over India and the world, and I am so excited. I'm hoping the weather gods are going to be on our side because the crowd is certainly ready. So I can't wait for the race to begin.
Neither can we, to be honest with you, because at the Madras International Circuit, every race is an absolutely entertaining one. And what makes it so entertaining, Suhail, is the grass around.
Yeah.
You just can't make a mistake here, because if you do, literally, race over, one shot.
It's a traditional circuit, and I think it's a proper racing circuit. You know, I've had the opportunity of obviously driving here since I was, I think, 3 or 4 years old on the lap of my dad or someone like that, and then onto bikes as well. But it's unforgiving. And I think when it's unforgiving, it's a very technically challenging circuit as well. So for a lot of these young guys, as we said, a lot of them 15, 16, 17 years of age, as we think about what they've got to do on track, you cannot put a foot wrong. You're driving at over 200 clicks per hour, you know the challenges that come with it. But this is a proper driver's circuit. It separates the men from the boys, and these are really young boys who are grooming themselves into becoming men behind the wheel as well. There is going to be a proper scrap going into C1 and C2. Now, you'll start to see them go maybe even 2 or 3 wide into C1, but it's C2 where you'll first see the overtaking opportunity into the right-hander and then into the left-hander. There's a long back straight as well. So there's a lot of opportunities for overtaking. It's just about when you time that move on this circuit, because it can go very, very wrong, as we've seen in the past here.
And we've got to be wary of that, because a lot of these kids, Suhail, they come from go-karting, where making overtakes is a lot easier. Remember, they're so young, they will make mistakes, but it's all about learning from them, all about developing as a racing driver, as they now come into the pit lane and will be then heading into the grid.
Yeah,
now,
that's Nooruz Ghafoor, sadly, the slowest of the lot down in P10, but overall, I think the names to watch out for, we've talked about it from quali as well, Akshay Bora, Rishon Rajiv, Shahan Ali Mohsin, you know, these are some of the big names. There is Akshay Bora, number 31, and that is one to watch out for. And this is again the experience helping. You know, when you've driven cars of this caliber in the past, it's just the downforce that's different, the mechanics of it very different as well to karts. So for someone like Akshay Bora, you can understand why he's out in front, because he's had a taste of this machinery already.
Exactly, and then also watch out for the driver in car number 37. In P9 there is Cooper Webster, ladies and gentlemen, and Cooper Webster is one of the finest drivers out there. He had a bad qualifying, but he has got so many podiums in the British Formula 4 Championship. That's like going from India to play at the under-17 Premier League level and excelling over there. It's strange that he's in P9, but I get a feeling in the race he's going to be right up there.
I actually like the fact that he's in P9 in this first race, because it means we're going to get a lot of overtaking coming through these first few laps. When you've got someone as quick as Cooper Webster in 9th spot out of 10, yes, he had a shabby first qualifying session, but it means therefore that he's up against it. It's not the easiest track, as I said earlier, to overtake on, but there's a lot of opportunities. I don't mean it's not easy from a space perspective. There's plenty of space and gaps. It's just about when you put that move into place, because there's certain spots on the track it can go very wrong. If you outbrake yourself, there isn't too much of a margin for error. Technically, superb circuit to have as a driver.
Absolutely, and the important point is also going to be to hold it in at turn number 1, not get too over yourself perhaps.
C2 is going to be where the action is.
Exactly, because so many young kids, right, it's so easy to lose the race at turn number 1. They think that they can win it right there, but they've got to be calm and composed, which is where the challenge is for Akshay Bora. I know he's raced a lot in Europe, but this level of competition, someone like Rishon Rajiv, one of the finest in India, that's where you really test yourself, and that's going to make this race so much fun.
It will, and I think that's where the start is going to be massively crucial. You've got Rishon Rajiv in P2, you've got Akshay Bora, who's got that caliber, and again, remember when you've driven Italian F4, the grid is sizable. So you do know how to actually hold back. You do make mistakes, as he's done as well. We've seen it, and we've heard from him in the past too. But when you've made those mistakes, you carry that experience into a field that may not be as experienced. So you can expect that from behind you, there's going to be a bold move that comes in. These are all young guys with plenty of adrenaline flowing through them. So there's going to be a few errors. There's going to be a few very, very brave moves. It's about holding your own, understanding when that move is actually going to count, because it's just about tiding your time, holding on for that perfect move as well.
And the interesting part is the start is going to be so much fun, because there are drivers like Norris Kafour, Arjun Chera, I think Jack Taylor as well, who've never done a car race in their life. They've never started a car at the start of a race. So dropping the clutch as well, making sure the power is consistent, that's a challenge. And it's the first time in their life that they're going to do it. It's going to be fun.
It is going to be massively entertaining. And again, when you think of that step from karts to single-seaters, it is a proper challenge. So watch out for these young boys. They've got what it takes.
And let's see what's on their mind. Niharika's down there. Let's listen to other drivers, shall we?
Hi, Somer. We are headed off to grab hold of Akshay Bora at the moment, who's P1 on the grid. Hello. Yeah, so Akshay is now P1 on the grid. He's qualified first, 2 qualifyings in a row. Hi, Akshay.
Hello.
The last time I saw you here, was last year IRL, and you were almost deputy team principal for this team. How is it now to be coming here and racing in India?
Yeah, I mean, I came last year to just support my team and my brother, and yeah, this year to be racing is it's quite the atmosphere, as you can hear in the background. But yeah, I'm very excited.
You've raced F4 before. You've raced a lot of F4 cars this year. How is it going into the Indian F4 Championship, and how thirsty are you for a win finally?
Yeah, I mean, this championship is definitely a challenge, you know. I mean, yeah, it's an F4, and but you know, different tracks, different style of racing, different tires, different cars. So I think it's definitely, yeah, definitely an interesting challenge.
Thanks, Akshay. Good luck with your race.
And here we are back waiting for the race to begin, and trust me, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a long one. It's a hot day in Chennai.
Yeah.
I think roughly over 30 degrees Celsius. That's one thing. The humidity is insane. Even in the studio, we're feeling sweaty right here. Imagine what's it like for the drivers wearing their suits inside the cars, feeling all the G-forces. 25 minutes of racing is going to be boiling hot in there.
Yeah, look, that's part of the challenge as well. We saw it in Formula 1 at the Qatar Grand Prix too, but
Yes.
these guys, 25 minutes plus 1 lap, that's the format you get. So at the end of 25 minutes, you'll get that 1 added on lap, and that is the race distance you're talking of. A lot of these guys have the fitness capabilities though. They're young guys, so you know what? I'm not going to give them that heat business. Let them go out there and enjoy it. Yes, Chennai is hot. Yes, Chennai is humid, but you expect that coming in. Now, we've had a lot of showers yesterday as well. I'm looking out the window and it looks fairly clear for now. I think we should be okay until the dark clouds come in maybe later in the evening. But having said that, it does mean the humidity factor does go up. When you think of all of these factors, you've still got to just keep your head clear, really keep the physicality away from you, and focus on what you've got to do on track.
And let's see what the drivers are thinking of. Let's go to Niharika Ghorpade on the grid right now.
Yes, I have Rishon with me. Rishon. Hi. You have raced F4 before in the UAE. You've raced in the UAE F4 Championship, and now it's the Indian F4. How much does it mean to be winning here?
I mean, it's of course great to be here participating in the Indian F4 Championship. Right now, just looking forward to race 1, not thinking too much about the championship, we're just taking it step by step. We had good pace in practice, didn't put the lap together in quali, so that put us in P2. But yeah, the pace looks good. I think it's a long race, tire management is an important thing, so we just hope to do that well, and then hopefully the result comes.
One other question, Rishon. You've managed a consistent P2 in the first qualifying and the second. What can you do to make up for that now? And where couldn't you make up the lap time when it came to out-qualifying Akshay?
I think it was more of just putting the lap in together, which I was not able to do. I think Akshay did a good lap. Good job to him. But then I think we also have pace to be able to fight him. It's not that we're just a long way behind. So I think it's just about tyre management and staying consistent, and I think we'll get the result this race.
Thank you, Rishon, and all the best.
A couple of minutes left to go before the race properly begins. That was Rishon Rajiv qualifying in P2. Let's quickly have a word about him, Sohail, because we saw him last year at this very circuit in the Indian Racing League. He was smoking drivers that were 10, 15 years older than him. That is raw talent. Back in a Formula 4 car for the first time in months. Incredible driver he is.
I also think when you listen to what he said just on the grid, when your adrenaline's probably pumping at the highest, he still seems so calm. He talked about how he's not going to throw too much into this first race. Keep your nose clean, get a good result in, because the longer perspective is what's most important, the championship overall. And when you're in contention early, when you've got a P2 start in the first two races, you know that you're sort of looking sharp at the sharp end of the grid. So for Rishon Rajiv, I think he knows he's got the capabilities, especially what we saw of him last season as well. But he knows he just hasn't been able to stitch that lap together. If he gets a clean start, watch out Nikhil Bora, because if he gets out ahead, he is going to be a hard man to catch.
And for Akshay Bora, it's going to be a fun task managing it all. Because he's raced in many situations where he's got to fight the way back up the order, being in pole position, fighting against all these drivers. Oh my word, it is going to be insanely fun. But another driver I want to speak about, Alex Sawyer in P4. This guy is only 15. He has never ever in his life raced a car in racing. He's under the tutelage of Mitch Gilbert, who's also racing in the Indian Racing League. And clearly it's paying off, Sohail, because in qualifying, only 8/10 away from someone like Akshay, who's done years and years of Formula 4.
Yeah, Alex Sawyer, remember, coming in from Vietnam, he lines up P4. He actually had very similar times as well. And there you go, that is your starting grid. As we said earlier, Alex Sawyer from Vietnam in P4, representing the Hyderabad Blackbirds. Shahan Ali Mohsin, the 19-year-old, watch out for him, because he came into this weekend not knowing he was going to do the Formula 4. He's thrown in there as well. But towards the back of the grid, challenges for Cooper Webster. That is the man to watch out for. Number 37, the car number. He's in P9 on the 5th row of the grid, but he is going to launch a proper assault from that spot. And I think that's going to be the man to watch for me in the first 4 or 5 laps of this race, because he is going to have to mount an absolute charge if he wants to make a real battle for the championship as well.
But while doing that, he can't also be too aggressive on these tyres as well, because the MRF tyres, phenomenal grip, but in conditions like this one, the peak performance tends to wear off as the race goes on. So for Cooper, he's got to be mindful of that. And think of it, as an 18, 19-year-old, you're learning so much about cars, the vehicle dynamics, the competition, the heat, the weather. It's all preparing you for Formula 1. And that stage setting is, I think, so necessary in the world of Indian motorsport.
Well, we're jumping 4 steps ahead in preparation of Formula 1. You're preparing for, let's say, Formula 3, to be honest. We've got the 3-minute board out, and this is where the team personnel slowly, after another minute, will start to clear off the grid as well, and it leaves the drivers alone with just their thoughts. And that's where the real challenge comes to grips, because you've got no one in your ear, you've got no cameras anymore around you, you're just alone in your thoughts, waiting for those lights to go off. And for these young guys, as you said, yes, taking care of the tyres is going to be a challenge, because you're also doing it very differently to qualify. You've got the pressure of having 9 guys around you, mounting for positions as well and vying for your spot. So keeping the tyres in decent nick with all that pressure, that's going to be the real test for a lot of these young guys with an average age of 17, 18 years old.
Yeah, exactly. And we can't wait to see what the action is like. Now, folks, after a quick break, let's go to the comms box. In a second, we're with Jake Sanson.
Indeed, what a battle it is set to be in the first ever FIA Formula 4 India Championship race. We are very excited about what is about to occur on the Madras International Circuit. A fabulous challenge, and it will be very difficult indeed for our drivers to get up to speed in these cars. For many of them, it is their first time racing in India. For a few others, it's their first time racing a car at all. Some of them have come up from the world of various different disciplines of karting to be here, and it'll be a fabulous battle out on the circuit. But we are ready for the action. There is your pole sitter, Akshay Bora, who has spent the entire season racing in F4 in other categories, and here he comes to India with a great chance. 30-second board goes up, and that is the signal that we get to go racing for the very first time. History is about to be made here in the Madras International Circuit in Arungatukatoi, just a few miles outside the main city centre in downtown Chennai. Here we are, the home of Indian motorsport is about to ring to the sound of F4 for the very first time. Akshay Bora and Rishon Rajiv at the front row of the starting grid. Shahan Ali Mohsin and Alex Sawyer on the second row. Rishabh Jain and Rohan Madesh are going to be on the third row of the grid, with Arjun Jaheda and Jack Taylor of Australia on the fourth row. Then it will be Cooper Webster alongside the Singaporean Nouris Gafoor, with the lady driver Salva Marjan making her first ever start in a car race. And it's the first time she's ever driven anything in competitive competition other than hire karts. This is a big challenge for all 11 of our drivers in the field. The first ever F4 India race. If you think that's not many drivers, well, Rome was not built in a day, and it's a pretty good start to the F4 India campaign, with all of the 6 races in the Indian Racing League, all the 6 teams I should say, in the Indian Racing League represented as well in F4 India amongst the teams. All of the cars are prepared by MP Motorsport, an operation that knows exactly what they are doing in the world of F4. But it's going to be an absolutely sensational battle. A big shame that we couldn't be bringing the racing to you on the streets of Hyderabad once again, but we are still racing here in Chennai, and we are very excited. Jake Sanson and Sumil Arora guiding you through the action in this first of our 3 F4 India races. And Sumil, the atmosphere down on the grid is intense, and the driving is already very, very high. We've seen that through qualifying and through free practice. This should be a thriller of a first race.
I'm tearing up just a little bit. This is such a phenomenal moment for Indian motorsport. We've been waiting for something like this for so many years, because in India, we've got a great karting structure. But if you want to go to Formula One, as Sohail mentioned on the broadcast, there's a big jump from India to Europe. This will definitely help increase the amount of drivers that go from here to there, because this is quite a decent intermediate step in a way, where you get used to the technology, where you get used to the level of competition, and then you can go out there and fight and just have to learn the conditions back in Europe. So incredible moment for India to have its own Formula 4 championship. And very quickly on the drivers and teams, Akshay Bora versus Rishon Rajiv versus Shahan Ali Mohsin. That sounds like a proper battle royale to me, Jake. When you consider everything that's happened in practice and testing, these 3 drivers have really shown out. But watch out for Cooper Webster. He's going to be in B9, and the fighting, oof. It's going to be like Fight Club, isn't it, Jake? They're going to be all over each other all over the way.
It certainly is. Hello to everybody who's watching along, whether you're on Star Sports or whether you're on the YouTube stream. We are very grateful indeed for your patronage, and your welcome. Is going to be a really exciting battle as all of the contenders are up for scraps. It will be a very tough race from the outset. All 3 of the top men on the top 3 of the grid have Indian roots and heritage, so this is very much their championship that we battle for the very first time. The green flag at the back of the grid signifies that we are ready to start for the first time in history in F4 India. We are about to get underway for the first race, and the lights are coming on. It's time to go racing for 25 minutes plus 1 lap for the first time ever. F4 India is go! And what a fantastic start from the front for Akshay Bora. He moves away in fine style. Good start as well from the man in second place, Rishon Rajiv. He gets a relatively decent start. Alex Sawyer's got a better start than his teammate Shahan Ali Mohsin. He actually gets into 3rd position. So the Vietnamese driver, he then loses ground on the outside from Ali Mohsin. Ali Mohsin is now stretching away in 3rd position. Alex Sawyer in jeopardy from Rishabh Jain, and from the second car, Cooper Webster trying to charge his way through up on the inside. He goes wheel to wheel with Sawyer, and they lock wheels. As a result, it's Rohan Madesh that picks up 2 places, and so too forward comes Alex Sawyer. He manages to deal with Cooper Webster for the time being, but a rip-roaring start to this first race ever in F4 India.
Pressure? What do you mean by pressure? Akshay Bora absorbing it all like a sponge. What a phenomenal start it was for him. And Rishon Rajiv got close, but not close enough to make a move. That is what you need to be winning this race. A really clean start, so that then, when the clean air is with you, you can ram home the good lap times. That's going to be the agenda for Akshay Bora. But now, let's wait and see what Cooper Webster does, because Jake, he's picked up 2 positions at the start. He was a driver to watch for.
Akshay Bora has built up an 0.8 of a second advantage already. That is the 17 of Rishabh Jain, who's already made a fairly decent start. This is a tricky corner on the circuit, the left-hander, where the back end really wants to start overtaking the front. You've got to be very careful. These cars are quite nimble. And don't forget, this is the first ever race with these cars on this circuit in these conditions. So the tyres are obviously going to be trying their best to get up to temperature. A little bit of a drag there, as you can see, a little bit of a drift out from Ali Mohsin, doing his best there to get the car through its paces. But Akshay Bora completes the first lap without too many dramas, and he leads the way here. So at the end of lap 1, it is Bora in front of Rajiv, Ali Mohsin, then Jain, Mahadesh, Alex Sawyer, the Vietnamese driver in P6 from Cooper Webster, Nouris Gafoor, Arjun Jaheda and Jack Taylor. No sign of Marjan, unfortunately. He was not taking up the start of this one. but the race is going to battle out. Akshay Bora still going strong from Rajiv. Rajiv can really start to reel in. The Speed Demons Delhi driver already starting to go after the leader in the Godspeed Kochi car. So they will duel away. It's looking to be a nice, tasty battle for 5th place. Mahadesh is being caught by Sawyer and Webster. So that's where things could get a little bit spicy in the first part of racing. But it's looking good so far for Akshay Bora to run in front of Rishon Rajiv. Rajiv is slowly starting to see where Akshay Bora can be vulnerable, so he's going to start to try and read into that gap. Don't forget, it's quite a tight and narrow circuit here, but it is a real driver's circuit, this. It really tests the character and the composure and the rhythm and discipline of a driver. This is not the kind of circuit you can make a mistake on, because it will be punished profusely.
I mean, look at the grass around nearby. If you make one error, your car's going to be beached inside over there, and that is such a horrible way to begin your season. So the driver's very mindful of all the challenges, not just technically with the car, but also in terms of the limits of the circuit as well. And what I'd like you to do, folks, is watch out for that battle in P6 and P7. Alex Sawyer versus Cooper Webster, two of our most prepared drivers for this one. And the fun fact is, Cooper had a terrible qualifying. He's closing up and he's faster than Alex, but as the late great Murray Walker used to say, catching up is one thing, passing is going to be a completely different ball game. Watch out for that big fight for P6.
Especially considering this is a tough circuit to overtake on. So Bora, a second clear of Rishon Rajiv, who sets the fastest lap of the race, by the way, as he comes through. Then it's Shahan Ali Mohsin. There he is in the Hyderabad Blackbirds car, running in 3rd position. This is the team that gave India's first Racing League Drivers' Champion last year. And of course, they also have a team in connection with MP Motorsport in the F4 UAE Championship, as well as the Formula Regional category in the Middle East. So they have good racing pedigree here. But Shahan Ali Mohsin doing his best to try and charge after the cars in front. The Bora, Rajiv, Ali Mohsin. A good start from Rishabh Jain. I have to say, the Chennai Turbo Riders star has moved his way up into 4th position nice and quickly. How about this for the competitive nature of the sport, though? We have 5 different teams in the top 5 places. That really is quite an impressive performance so far from Indian F4, and a very positive start. But out in front, Bora still leading Rajiv. Here's Shahan Ali Mohsin running in P3, and there is your man up in front, Akshay Bora, whose older brother Nikhil has been running well in Formula Regional, as well as guiding the Godspeed Kochi team to the Indian Racing League Championship title last year. So now it's Akshay Bora's turn to step into the limelight. And the 16-year-old is coping with the pressure put on him by Rishon Rajiv and Shahan Ali Mohsin, who both, of course, raced in the Indian Racing League last year. Akshay Bora did not get the chance to. He was too young, 16 years of age this year. Both men behind him, Rajiv and Ali Mohsin, are his senior. But I tell you what, Akshay Bora is driving so smooth and composed at the moment, looking good for his first on-the-road F4 win. Safety car is on track, and I think we may have lost Mahadesh. So Mahadesh has had an issue out there on the course, so the safety car has come out onto the circuit. That should be coming out at the end of the pit lane to catch the cars, but we're not entirely sure which car it is that has tripped off the road. So there is the safety car, the TSI Power machine at the beginning of the second corner, and picks up Akshay Bora no problem. But who is it that's in trouble? We'll need to pick that up in a moment.
It might just be Arjun Chheda, unfortunately. He was up there in P8, dropped back down to P10 very suddenly. I get a feeling it's something with him, but let's wait and watch to see what happens eventually. But in this scenario, Jake, their momentum has been broken down badly. We saw Akshay Bora, Rishon Rajiv push so hard, get great lap times, and then wait and restructure their confidence, because the safety car really bunches everything up.
We've got 8 cars on track. That means that we've lost both Rohan Mahesh and Arjun Chheda, so that's 2 cars off. I can only assume they've gone off together, but there might have been a difficulty that essentially one has had to avoid the other. I don't know if it's the same incident that's taken both cars off the road, but certainly Mahadesh and Chheda both off at the moment, and obviously with Marjan not starting the race, that means that we're down to 8. The safety car is, of course, out. So we now have Rohan Mahesh and Arjun Chheda. We're not entirely sure where on the circuit their cars are placed. We'll try and figure that out very shortly indeed. Let's try and figure out where on the circuit. Now there's one of them. So there is one of them beached in the grass and in the ditch, actually. That's a rather precarious position. That's Rohan Madesh's car, I do believe. The number 27 that's kind of there in the ditch in the chicane. But I only saw one car there. I didn't see Arjun Chheda's machine. So maybe he's had a separate incident that's triggered the safety car, because I only saw one car. I didn't see 2.
Yeah, that's a bit of a shame, actually, if they've both come together. I think we saw another car in the background. Yep.
Oh yeah, look, it is 2 separate incidents.
Yeah, and it seems like Yeah, I wonder what exactly has gone on over there. We'll get more information as and when we can. But it's such a shame, Jake, because Arjun Chheda, Rohan Madesh, both drivers knowing each other from the start of their karting careers. They race with each other all the time. They know the best and the best abilities that each of them have. It's a shame that both of these really exciting drivers out in the first few minutes of the race. Two really exciting talents, but I suppose we'll have to wait until tomorrow to see more of their abilities.
Yeah, it is, and it's interesting that it's two separate incidents because we saw Rohan Madesh drift off on the right-hander on the far side of the course and end up beached in the ditch, unfortunately. So life's a ditch as far as Rohan Madesh is concerned, rather sadly. And Arjun Chheda, he looks like he's had a completely different incident and spun the car backwards into the Armco in the second sector. So that's a rather awkward position, and that's why we have ended up getting the safety car out on the course. It'll be out for at least one more lap. So we can talk through the order as a result of that. Akshay Bora still leading the way from Rishan Rajiv, who is just in behind him. Shahan Ali Mohsin, who hasn't actually driven a racing car of any kind since the last lap at Hyderabad last year in the Indian Racing League, and doing a great job in third place. Fourth position for Rishabh Jain, who is there in P4, and then fifth position for the Vietnamese driver Alex Sawyer, who has had a bit of a difficult start to his F4 journey. There is Cooper Webster, the Australian, who spent the entire season in GB4 in the British paddock. Seventh position for Nuris Gafoor, and then in eighth position we have Jack Taylor, the Australian competitor, who is at the back of the field at this moment in time. But we have Rohan Madesh and Arjun Chheda, who are currently off the circuit. Look at the fans in the stands there. It's absolute packed on the main straight. So good to see how everybody's having a fantastic run of the remaining competitors. But we do not have Rohan Madesh and we do not have Arjun Chheda. Not entirely sure what happened to them, but they've had two completely separate incidents in two separate parts of the race circuit. So obviously that means that it's going to be a difficult one for the recovery crew. We'll have to see if we can pick up the incident, or the incidents, I should say, of those two drivers. Unfortunately, if the camera was busy looking at the incidents in front of them, or the battles in front of them, we may not have footage of what happened to them. So we'll just try our best to consider what is currently going on.
And also, on these two young drivers, right, let's not forget they're only so young. Arjun Chheda literally turned 15 10 days ago. That's barely anything. And also for Rohan Madesh, one of the younger ones of the lot. He's got tons and tons of karting experience. But this is what this series is meant to be, Jake. Isn't it interesting how they're able to take that step into Formula 4, as you mentioned earlier on in qualifying, but also critical of these drivers for the mistakes that they've made. But let's understand the context behind it. First time properly racing, and we've got Nikhil Bora in the blue t-shirt cheering on his brother Akshay Bora as well, watching from the terraces. All the fans in the house as well. It's a little bit in the heat. It's a tricky place for them to be in, but the racing surely makes it better. With 15 odd minutes to go plus one more lap, I think they're going to have a really fun time watching the battle between Akshay Bora and Rishan Rajiv at the end.
Yeah, great to see the fans in the stands enjoying motor racing. A lot of them for the very first time, of course. Some of them will not have been at the Indian Racing League last year, and certainly they are witnessing a little piece of motorsport history here, watching the first ever F4 race. You've got to remember that this is quite an important pathway in the world of motorsport. There's a lot of great drivers that have come through from F4. Not all of them have been champions, of course, as we look at the engineers that are here as a guest from the UMA, who are guests over the course of this fantastic championship, getting to learn about motor racing engineering firsthand. But you've got to remember that over the years, F4 racing has been all over the world, and these drivers get the opportunity to go up to huge things in terms of their prowess and their time. You just look at the British Championship. Lando Norris came from there, as too did the likes of Luke Browning, who's just had his first go in Formula One as an Aston Martin driver, having become part of the Williams Academy subsequently. There's been some great performances from other drivers in other categories. I mean, the French Championship, we've seen Ayumi Iwasa, who's now in Formula 2, of course, with the Red Bull program, and Esteban Masson, who is fighting for the Euro Cup 3 championship title. The likes of Theo Porcher, Johnny Edgar, Oliver Behrman, and Andrea Kimi Antonelli all won the German F4 series. So there's a lot of great talent to come from there. Lance Stroll won the Italian championship in years gone by, so too did Gabriele Mini, Behrman and Antonelli. The Japanese stars Shota Tsuboi and Ritsumo Miyata, as well as Yuki Tsunoda, have all been F4 Japanese champion. And then you go to North and Central America, the likes of Noel Leon. The Northern European zone, you've got the likes of Richard Verschoor and Nico Kari, along with Christian Lundgaard. You've also got the Spanish Championship, where the likes of Amaury Cordil and Franco Colapinto, who's now going to be racing in Formula 2 next year. They came out of the Spanish F4 Championship as title winners. And then even in the UAE, not too far from here, the likes of Matteo Nannini, Enzo Trilli, Charlie Wirtz, James Wharton, they've all won the title. So to have an Indian Championship of this magnitude, it kind of creates a pathway for the future of Indian motorsport talent to start looking at the international world of racing. It's really, really good to see that India now has a foothold in international motorsport. Basically, if you run an FIA F4 Championship in your nation, it shows the world that you're a nation to be reckoned with in the world of motorsport. So to get it started here, it's a big moment for the country. There is Mitch Gilbert watching on with the Speed Demons Delhi car, as well as Shahan Ali Mohsin's father there on the right of the screen, really hoping that he can break out of third position and move his way further forward. You would not believe the scenes here last year when they triumphed in the feature race at Madras International Circuit. It was such a big moment for them, wasn't it? It was a wonderful day.
Absolutely. And a word on Shahan Ali Mohsin as well. It's such a crazy, chaotic story. Currently, he's in P3, but up until this time last week, he wasn't even meant to be in the car. In fact, it was a surprise that his dad gave him, because Shahan Ali Mohsin was announced to be a Speed Demons Delhi driver in the Indian Racing League. He thought about the same thing, but when he came to testing, all the drivers told him, "Hey Shahan, your garage is not here. Your garage is in that side of the pit lane." He was surprised, confused. What do you mean that side of the pit lane? What do you mean? Am I not in Speed Demons Delhi anymore? And that's when his dad actually told him, "No, my friend, you're going to be racing in the Indian F4 Championship." And the joy and the elation on his face was just something to watch. That's what it means, Jake. That's what it means to drivers who've in fact conquered the top level of Indian motorsport. To compete in a championship like this one is like going a step above anything that we've ever done in this country. It's quite a place for them to be in, and I really, really am keen to see what eventually happens with them.
That's such a soulful story, isn't it, that your dad can surprise you like that to let you know that you're racing in a big championship.
And everyone was in the loop, every single person in the series.
Except for him.
With the travel coordinator, even the driver coordinator, the owners of the series, everyone.
There are the engineers, the mechanics, who all have been assigned an individual driver of their own, and they're all obviously keeping an eye on their pilots out there, enjoying the racing at the top level of Indian competition. Safety car still out on track, so obviously the recovery still going on for the cars of Rohan Madesh and Arjun Jaheda. Two separate incidents, we should point out. So a fascinating situation as the competitors running off. So let's look at the order. Akshay Bora in front of Rishon Rajiv. So a very good performance from those two so far, in front of Shahan Ali Mohsin. And then Rishabh Jain, who's done a terrific job, I have to say, in his first weekend in F4 India, right up there at the sharp end. The Vietnamese driver Alex Sawyer, who was in his first ever car race. Brilliant performance from him so far, jumping straight out of the world of direct drive karting in the OK categories. He's done a fantastic job, the Vietnamese driver. Then Cooper Webster, the Australian who's been part of GB4 all season long. And good to see him making good steps and good progress. As everybody in the pits just keeping an eye on the times of their drivers and obviously waiting for the restart the same way we are. Norris Gafoor, the Singaporean driver, starting up in 7th position on the grid. He's the next big talent from Singapore, hoping to race in his home country in Formula 1 on the Marina Bay circuit in years to come. And the Australian talent Jack Taylor, who's had a very difficult start to his F4 journey, has not quite been able to get the car up to pace for whatever reason. He had some mechanical problems which really held him back in terms of his qualifying prowess. Lights out on the safety car, so we are going to go racing again in F4 India. So this is Akshay Bora's mission, to back up the pack, to give himself a little bit of an opportunity. He needs to time the start well so that he can get well clear. So Akshay Bora will hold his position here in front of Rishon Rajiv. Shahan Ali Mohsin is backing up Rishabh Jain as well. Could be interesting to see how Akshay Bora decides to pitch this. He's obviously been in this situation before. He has taken a victory in F4 in the past, but it wasn't on the road. He actually finished behind James Wharton, and then Wharton got a penalty. So he inherited a victory, but he's never won a race outright. So this is an opportunity really for Akshay Bora to really dig deep and find something. It's a big opportunity, and he's not going to squander it.
What's your heart rate like? Mine is going through the roof.
It's pretty high, actually.
It's pretty high, actually, if you come to think about it. It is going to be insanely fun to see what Rishon Rajiv is going to be like at the start, because he knows that fact as well, that Akshay has not won a race on the road. Green flag up in the air. Here we go once again for the Indian Formula 4 Championship.
Akshay's gone for it. He's dropped the hammer, so now he'll come off the final turn and he'll go for broke as they come off the line. It's green, 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 and off we go again. Second place for Rajiv, trying to stay close. Look at Rishabh Jain in 4th position, already starting to get into the wing of Shahan Ali Mohsin. in third position, so Jane may get an opportunity here to go for broke. Watch as well for Cooper Webster as he storms in behind Alex Sawyer. So already a decent start. Rajiv has decided to go for broke and go after Akshay Bora. He knows he really needs to get him in the first or second lap of green flags. Otherwise, Akshay Bora is going to settle into a rhythm and he's going to stretch away. So it's really time for Rishan Rajiv to dig deep and find something for the Speed Demons Delhi crew. He wants to pull clear. So as we run in position, there is Akshay Bora coming into shot. Rishan Rajiv is there with him. And he's actually staying fairly close to Akshay Bora. He does not want to let Bora get away. He has to really punish him in the early stages of this restart. Noris Kafour just dropping Jack Taylor slightly on this opening lap. But Akshay Bora doing a great job. Look at Rishan Rajiv. He's already dialing in right in behind Bora.
And these cars do have two small mirrors, and in those two small mirrors, Rishan Rajiv might be looking like the biggest thing in the world, because look at him, he's gaining time slowly and steadily on Akshay Bora. This is a fight that's going to be going right down to the very, very end, and that is precisely what Rishan Rajiv has to do, Jake. Keep on putting pressure, just be right there, just be in his mirror, and force Akshay Bora into making a mistake, because when that happens, that's when he could win the race. And speaking of mistakes, Rishan has made the first one.
He has indeed. He's dropped back a little bit, but look at the sky. It's starting to get a little bit dark over Madras International Circuit. That could really bode badly for the Indian Racing League race coming up later. But certainly for the moment, Akshay Bora has the edge over Rishan Rajiv. This is exactly what he wanted to do. Just stretch out a little bit of a gap. He doesn't need a big gap. He just needs enough to keep him into a relatively strong position. Webster and Gafour still looking good in 6th and 7th places. And up to 4th position, that is a move that we have had to see Rishabh Jain lose ground a bit to Sawyer and Webster. So Rishabh Jain is under some pressure here from the young Vietnamese driver Alex Sawyer. Sawyer doing a grand job. He was racing, of course, for the Falcon Racing team in the International Karting Circuit. A big run wide from Jack Taylor. So Taylor actually ended up catching the grass there on the way through turn 3. Manages to catch the car before he pitches it off the road big time. But again, Rishan Rajiv just doing his best to hunt down. But look at Alex Sawyer behind the 11 of Ali Mohsin and the 17 of Rishabh Jain. Alex Sawyer looking very hungry. He's made that early mistake. He really didn't want to. There's Jack Taylor just getting himself up to speed again. So now we're going to get to see Alex Sawyer swarm all over the back of Rishabh Jain. And he's got to be careful because the Australian talent, Cooper Webster, is right there to pounce if he messes it up.
And I'm very, very, very impressed with the likes of Alex Sawyer and Cooper Webster at this moment in time, both gaining positions. And a word on Rishabh Jain as well. Incredible. Testing wasn't quite the best, the cleanest for him, but what he's doing in the car right now, setting lap times that are similar, if not faster, than the likes of Shahan Ali Mohsin, Alex Sawyer and Cooper Webster. These are good people to be surrounded with, and incredible that we're going to see him up in P4 at the moment in time. But we have a fight for P2, for P5 in the championship at this moment in time. Alex Sawyer, Cooper Webster, both these drivers having slight Australian roots in a way. Alex's dad living there partially back in the day, Cooper Webster also from Australia. This is going to be a fun fight, Jake, because with 5 odd minutes left to go, it's going to be pandemonium all the way through. Cooper's going to be hungry for positions. Alex just has to absorb all the pressure.
You just get the feeling that Cooper Webster's had enough of staring at the back wing of Alex Sawyer's car. He really wants to make his bid. He's got to really work his craft. But here's the thing as well, Alex Sawyer is trying to drop Cooper Webster and goes back up to Rishabh Jain. So this is going to be an interesting duel between them as they continue to charge forward. Just 8 cars remaining of the 10 that took up the start. Sadly, we didn't get a start at all from Salva Marjan. Some kind of problem there, we think. And Mahadesh and Jaheda having an off that brought out the safety car in 2 separate parts of the circuit, we should point out. They didn't hit each other, as far as we know. There's the 37. This is Cooper Webster, the Aussie, doing his best to try and close up on the Vietnamese driver, Alex Sawyer. But out in front, it is the Indian talent. We're Indian in heritage. They also have Singaporean and American roots. Akshay Bora, the number 31. Here's the battle for 4th. It's Jain, Sawyer and Webster having a terrific duel for 4th position. Rishabh Jain looking good at the moment. There's the 11. That's Shahan Ali Mohsin, who has won in an Indian Championship before. A couple, actually, because, of course, he won the Indian Racing League race last year and has had a very solid and smooth run on this circuit. Look at how dark the sky is getting in the background. That is very scary in terms of the rain that could come later. And when it rains here, it rains hard, so you've got to be very careful. It is monsoon season, of course, out here. So you've got to be very hopeful that it's going to be a dry running for the rest of the race. 3 minutes 20, plus the additional lap, still remains here in Indian F4. in the very first race of the championship's history. Big twitch from Rishabh Jain as he went through turn 1. Look, he's wrestling with the wheel, trying to keep the car guided on the racing line, and you've got Alex Sawyer all over the back of him now.
This is going to be a three-way fight that's going to be keeping us entertained until the very end of this race. And Rishabh Jain, he's done the Ferrari Driver Academy test before, and there they really test you physically and mentally. This is where that experience comes in handy, because when someone with the raw pace and talent of Alex Sawyer is in your mirror, ooh, that's going to be a tough thing to absorb for him. And even for Alex Sawyer, for that matter, he's in this little sandwichy position where if he attacks a bit too hard, he could come under pressure from Cooper Webster behind. That balance management, Jake, is going to be incredibly fun for him in his literal first ever car race. How cool is that he's able to do such great stuff right there at the very beginning of his career?
Yeah, it's a Vietnam sandwich on Chennai Turbo Riders bread, isn't it? Very tough racing at the moment from Rishabh Jain, Alex Sawyer and Cooper Webster as they run together. They're trying to keep up with Shahan Ali Mohsin. There he is. Look, he's really swamping on the steering wheel, trying desperately to keep the car pointed on the straight and narrow. Those rain clouds do look ominous overhead, I have to say. And the Indian Racing League drivers will be a little bit nervous about that. It's starting to look like the day after tomorrow too out there at the moment, so a bit tricky. Oh, big mistake from Rajiv. He went very wide on the way through, and look at the grass that he's left out on the circuit. So big error from Rishabh Rajiv, pushing the car, trying to find a little bit more pace onto Akshay Bora. Now, of course, those clouds ominous overhead, Sunil. If we get rain in those last couple of laps, that's going to be really scary on these tyres because they're very thin, slick tyres. You don't have a lot of opportunity to catch any grip. And around here, puddles collect quickly and the damp patches can be really treacherous to negotiate.
Oh, and you can tell clearly that grip is a luxury at this moment in time. Alex Sawyer squirming and sliding around with the rear end of his car, making a slight lock-up as well. That is how tricky the conditions are. Great heat at the Madras International Circuit. And not just the tyres, not just the drivers actually, the tyres are also going through a lot. And you're right, Jake, when the rain comes, these cars become next to impossible to drive because they're slicks. The circuit's also super slippery, and all the rubber that gets laid down by these cars and the driving, that totally gets worn away. So if the rain comes, it's going to be tricky, but we're seeing a move, I suppose. I think we are seeing Alex Sawyer in the background trying to attack Rishabh Jain. Here we are, on the outside he goes. He's going to have the inside line for the next corner. Alex Sawyer, what a move, taking up P4, and Rishabh Jain's got to contemplate a strategy now. That, Jake, was the move of the race.
Superb overtake from Alex Sawyer under massive pressure to get it wrong, and he drifted the car round the outside to hold it. That's so beautiful from the Vietnamese driver. Now Rishabh Jain is in big trouble because his teammate Cooper Webster is going to want to repeat the feat. Jain is the one who ended up buckling under the pressure. So now Cooper Webster is going to want to make the same move as quickly as humanly possible as well. And here comes Akshay Bora across the line to start the penultimate lap because we're down to the final 5 seconds on the timer, so they won't get any more than 2 laps of racing in. Cooper Webster now with 2 laps to take on his teammate to really try and make his move. It's going to be a really exciting battle out there. So the 37 of Cooper Webster tries his best. He's going to go for broke on the inside of Rishabh Jain. That was big, bold lunging there from Cooper Webster. He knows he's running out of time and he's losing time to his own teammate now. He's got to be very careful, back on the throttle again, just wait for the opportunity. The tricky nature of this Madras circuit, of course, is it's an amazing driver's circuit, but there are not an amazing amount of overtaking moves on a circuit like this with these kind of cars. You've really got to pick your moments. So Rishabh Jain still running in front of Cooper Webster, but Webster really wants to find his spot to overtake past the Singaporean in front of him, past his teammate. He's got to work hard here to try and find the gap. You've got to remember that these guys may be teammates, but they're all sort of working together in the same garage. They're all hunting each other down. The teams are basically nominal. So these guys are obviously working with each other and doing the best that they possibly can to make their own personal gains. It's not really a team's championship effort. Big lock-up for Alex Sawyer in front. Did he hold the corner? He's got to be careful. Yes, he did. So well done to Alex Sawyer. He held the corner. But now watch Cooper Webster as he drifts in behind Rishabh Jain.
And it's interesting you mentioned that. It's a team championship only nominally. That's the important point, because yes, they might be in the same garage, but essentially they're fighting for each other, and that's a big lockup.
Look at the rain! Oh my goodness! That's just hit the circuit big time in the final bend. That is horrendous. I did tell you, didn't I? It's monsoon season in India. When it rains hard. It is coming down biblically.
But only on one side of the circuit. The main stretch is dry. It is dry as bones here, literally. And then when you go towards the northern part of the circuit, that's where the rain really is. Phenomenally tricky conditions for all the drivers, and it's not red flagged yet. They are still meant to be driving as they are. So as it stands, yep, yellow flag. It is the final lap, but I wonder how they're going to manage this. Are there yellow flags on the track? Because if they are, they can't overtake each other. But I can't clearly see one.
No,
the
I
marshal
can't.
post in front of our comms box has no yellow flag, which means realistically, Rishon Rajiv can pass him at literally 50 kph.
Yeah, this is tiptoe stuff. You've got to be so careful about where you place the car from this moment on, but the rain is making it an absolute ice rink.
flags.
And that's Sawyer going wide. So Sawyer, having taken the position away from Shahan Ali Mohsin, got him back again. So this is fascinating stuff on the last lap as they are literally tiptoeing their way round on a torrential downpour on the final lap of the first ever F4 India race. It's not safety, oh, it is safety car conditions. So something has happened on the very last lap of the race then, so they're going to have to come through without racing each other. So Akshay Bora, look at the rain, but Akshay Bora is so relieved because the safety car, I do believe, is out. And that means that they are going to be finishing on, well, no, hang on, the safety car sign is gone. I don't think it is safety car conditions, actually. I think they're still racing. So they're just tiptoeing their way round, and essentially they've got to wait for the way through. Look at the steam coming up. That's the thing. It's so hot here that when it rains, it is very, very gentle. Yeah, safety car boards are out. There we go. So they're going to finish under safety car conditions.
Yep.
So they can't overtake. So unfortunate for Rishon Rajiv. But the circuit is so hot that when the rain comes down, you just get huge plumes of steam coming off it because of how high the temperature is. Look at this. It's absolutely biblical now. This is going to put a delay to the Indian Racing League race. But out the final turn, tippy-toeing his way through to the checkered flag, Akshay Bora will win the first ever F4 India race in history in front of Rishon Rajiv, Shahan Ali Mohsin and Alex Sawyer, who comes home in 4th position on his car racing debut. What an astonishing situation as the Indian Racing League's first ever race comes to a conclusion in torrential downpour here on the Madras International Circuit. What a dramatic way for the first ever race in the championship to end. That is one heck of a crazy rainfall. It comes down big time here. But what an amazing race battle. Akshay Bora tiptoes his way round on the slowing down lap, but that will give him so much confidence. His first on-track victory. He inherited a win in Italian F4 early this year when James Wharton got a penalty, but this is his first actual race victory that he controlled the pace of himself with all the pressure. And I'm here on the start-finish straight looking out over the circuit, and it is, I'm literally expecting Noah's Ark to drift out into the shot. It's that wet. So big torrential downpour here in the middle of monsoon season in India. And I tell you what, this has been very tricky for the drivers to negotiate, even on the last lap, even with the safety car out. Full credit to everybody. But what an absolutely sensational situation as Akshay Bora wins the first ever F4 India race here at Madras International Circuit. Such an amazing achievement for him. Rishon Rajiv, great performance from him, knowing that he was going to race just 3 days ago and to come in and do a fantastic job. Great to see from the two drivers up front. Shahan Ali Mohsin coming through in 3rd position. A good effort from him considering he hasn't raced a car of any kind for a year. Look at that. Absolutely astonishing. So, a brilliant victory then for Akshay Bora as he takes the victory in front of Rishon Rajiv. And, well, they're going to be lucky to even make it back to the pits. The downpour is absolutely torrential here at the Madras International Circuit. And that obviously doesn't bode too well for the Indian Racing League race coming up in a little while, because they're going to have a very tough race circuit to play with. But Akshay Bora makes history here at the Madras International Circuit, the first ever F4 India winner.
guys.
Hadesh and Arjun Chaheda. Salva Marjan not able to take the start, unfortunately, but what a result and a brilliant performance in the first ever F4 race in India. Absolutely terrific stuff from Akshay Bora in very tricky positions. So Akshay Bora driving his way around the Madras International Circuit, very calm and very composed no matter what the conditions. With the torrential Indian monsoon downpour at the end of race one, he still didn't lose his ground, he didn't lose his concentration or focus, kept it together and held on in front of Rishan Rajiv and Shahan Ali Mohsin. A great run from Alex Sawyer, the Vietnamese driver, to finish his first ever car race in P4. A very solid effort there. But how quickly can the weather change in India? Well, this is the demonstration. So a fabulous run in the first ever F4 India race. We're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we will be assessing all of the ins and outs of the first ever rain-changed F4 India race.
India, it's lights out and away we go. The FIA Formula 4 India is here. Along with the Indian Racing League, 36 drivers, 6 teams, 2 championships coming to light up the streets of Chennai. More thrills, more adrenaline and plenty of action with India's first night race at the heart of Chennai. Are you ready? India, it's lights out and away we go. The FIA Formula 4 India is here. Along with the Indian Racing League, 36 drivers, 6 teams, 2 championships coming to light up the streets of Chennai. More thrills, more adrenaline and plenty of action with India's first night race at the heart of Chennai. Are you ready? India, it's lights out and away we go. The FIA Formula 4 India is here. Along with the Indian Racing League, 36 drivers, 6 teams, 2 championships coming to light up the streets of Chennai. More thrills, more adrenaline and plenty of action with India's first night race at the heart of Chennai. Are you ready? India, it's lights out and away we go. The FIA Formula 4 India is here. Along with the Indian Racing League, 36 drivers, 6 teams, 2 championships coming to light up the streets of Chennai. More thrills, more adrenaline and plenty of action with India's first night race at the heart of Chennai. Are you ready? India, it's lights out and away we go. The FIA Formula 4 India is here. Along with the Indian Racing League, 36 drivers, 6 teams, 2 championships coming to light up the streets of Chennai. More thrills, more adrenaline and plenty of action with India's first night race at the heart of Chennai. Are you ready? India, it's lights out and away we go. The FIA Formula 4 India is here. Along with the Indian Racing League, 36 drivers, 6 teams, 2 championships coming to light up the streets of Chennai. More thrills, more adrenaline and plenty of action with India's first night race at the heart of Chennai. Are you ready?
what have we witnessed right here at the Madras International Circuit in the middle of our Indian Formula 4 race, the first ever one? We've literally had a proper storm come to the circuit, and look at the circuit, it's all flooding behind us.
Welcome to Chennai.
Welcome to Chennai indeed. And this kind of race, Suhail, seriously, I think 20, 30 years down the line, when all these drivers have children and grandchildren, they will be telling the story of this race. That they were driving in the dry, nice and lovely, beautiful drive in the day, and then the rain. My word.
You know, we've come to understand it over the years as well. Like I said, having spent the last 30 years around this circuit, you understand that in late October, November, sometimes even in December, when rain hits the Madras circuit, it is torrential. And actually, it started to ease up, which is a great sign. And the track does tend to dry up quite quickly. Having said that, though, these are tough conditions, and I think the only thing they'll be thankful about is the fact that the rain came towards the back end of the race, towards that second last lap of the race, so they didn't have to contend with it for too long.
Yeah.
But that's a proper challenge. You're on slicks, tough to make any hay while the sun shines, and it didn't shine for too much longer since then. It's gotten quite dark, but when you look at the way these guys held their nerve, carried a mature head on their shoulders, well done to the young guys for just holding their noses clean to the very end.
Absolutely, the cars are 100% okay. And let's take a quick look at what exactly happened in the race early on today for the first ever Indian Formula 4 Championship race. At the start, it was a standing start. In the dry conditions, it almost feels like a different day altogether. And we had Akshay Bora at the start having a phenomenal one. Rishon Rajiv not quite having enough in the pack to challenge him at the beginning, but soon we saw the pack close up.
It was just a perfect getaway for Akshay Bora, and this is the experience that he carries in, having raced a lot of F4 already. For me, the disappointment maybe was Cooper Webster not being able to push through the pack, but what a clean getaway from Akshay Bora. It continued on from the way it started. Very, very clean racing, no real fuss about the first few laps, and we didn't see too much excitement, which is, I guess, the perfect recipe for any racing driver. You want to keep the air clean, your nose clean through the extent of an entire race. And that's what you got from the top three. Akshay Bora, Rishon Rajiv, and also Shahan Ali Mohsin. All three of them keeping their noses completely clean. But also a word on Alex Sawyer. His first ever race in single-seaters, and he did a tremendous job by really showing that composure that we expected of someone that's done 20, 30 races in the category.
Yeah, and we saw an incredible move later on that we'll talk about in a second, but the safety car had to come in because we had Rohan Madesh and Arjun Sheda both in different incidents going out of the race, and eventually the field had to be bunched up quite a fair bit. And when the racing got going again, we saw this tremendous three-way fight. Rishabh Jain for the Chennai Turbo Riders, Alex Sawyer for the Hyderabad Blackbirds, and eventually we also had Cooper Webster for the Chennai Turbo Riders as well. In this sandwich, you couldn't quite tell it was Alex Sawyer's first ever car race, because eventually, the way he put on pressure on Rishabh Jain, Rishabh eventually buckled. That's how you make a move.
Absolutely, and I think that was, to me, the highlight of that race, that battle for fourth between Alex, Rishabh and Cooper Webster. As I said, I expected maybe Cooper Webster to come out in front in that three-way battle, but at the top and at the very front of it, Akshay Bora just continued to command respect through this entire race, coming away under the yellow flag, then the checkered flag in torrential conditions to take the first ever win in the Indian F4 Championship. So for Akshay Bora, for Rishon Rajiv, for Shahan Ali Mohsin, fantastic result for them, but it didn't come easy. And I think for most of that race, it looked fairly easy, dry conditions, except when that restart came in under the safety car, and then when the rain came in as well.
Insane. I still can't believe how calm and composed they were. And let's take a quick look at the race results. Akshay Bora in P1 winning by a small margin against Rishon Rajiv. A phenomenal result for both of them. And Shahan Ali Mohsin rounding off the podium. But the big standout, Alex Sawyer in P4, Rishabh Jain in P5. Great results for them. And now, folks, that was race one for the first ever Indian Formula 4 Championship race. Let's go to a quick break, shall we?
India, it's lights out and away we go. The FIA Formula 4 India is here. Along with the Indian Racing League, 36 drivers, 6 teams, 2 championships coming to light up the streets of Chennai. More thrills, more adrenaline and plenty of action with India's first night race at the heart of Chennai. Are you ready? India, it's lights out and away we go. The FIA Formula 4 India is here. Along with the Indian Racing League, 36 drivers, 6 teams, 2 championships coming to light up the streets of Chennai. More thrills, more adrenaline and plenty of action with India's first night race at the heart of Chennai. Are you ready? India, it's lights out and away we go. The FIA Formula 4 India is here. Along with the Indian Racing League, 36 drivers, 6 teams, 2 championships coming to light up the streets of Chennai. More thrills, more adrenaline and plenty of action with India's first night race at the heart of Chennai. Are you ready? India, it's lights out and away we go. The FIA Formula 4 India is here. Along with the Indian Racing League, 36 drivers, 6 teams, 2 championships coming to light up the streets of Chennai. More thrills, more adrenaline and plenty of action with India's first night race at the heart of Chennai. Are you ready? India, it's lights out and away we go. The FIA Formula 4 India is here. Along with the Indian Racing League, 36 drivers, 6 teams, 2 championships coming to light up the streets of Chennai. More thrills, more adrenaline and plenty of action with India's first night race at the heart of Chennai. Are you ready? India, it's lights out and away we go. The FIA Formula 4 India is here. Along with the Indian Racing League, 36 drivers, 6 teams, 2 championships coming to light up the streets of Chennai. More thrills, more adrenaline and plenty of action with India's first night race at the heart of Chennai. Are you ready?
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, at the Madras International Circuit. A very wet Madras International Circuit, because what we saw in that first ever Formula 4 race was just pandemonium with the rain coming in on the final lap. We might have to wait a little bit until the Indian Racing League race starts. In that period, we should talk about the cars, because you mentioned, Sohail, the resilience, A, of the drivers, B, of the cars as well. And it's phenomenal, right? These things are the closest things you can get in India to a Formula 1 car, complete with the halo, with the front wing, rear wing. And it's a great stepping stone all the way through to Formula 1 all the way through.
Yeah, I think when you firstly think about it, you know, Formula 4, Formula 3 cars are used to driving in the UK, and the UK gets a lot more rain than we're seeing here in Chennai. So they're used to the rain chucking it down. For a lot of these drivers, though, they haven't driven in torrential rainfall. As I said earlier, thankfully for them, it came towards the back end of the race, only a lap and a half for them to contend with. The yellow flags had come out by then, so they just had to sort of gingerly keep their noses clean and get to the finish line, which they did pretty well. But for a lot of these guys, the Formula 4 cars are that stepping stone that they've been looking for. It's sort of that bridge between karting and, say, Formula 3, Formula 2. And now there's that progression. You've got the Formula LGBs in India. We've had the MRF Challengers in the past as well. But you now have that stepping stone where when you go from karting, you go to the Formula LGBs as your first sort of first single-seater experience. But you can actually avoid that step at times and come straight into the F4 series as well. So for a lot of these Indian guys, they're trying to say, look, if I've been really quick in karts, and karts today are mighty, mighty quick. And if you're as quick as you are, and you can see actually behind me, the first ever international karting circuit coming together here at the Madras International Circuit. So when you get to grips with arenas like that, karts that are getting quicker and quicker, it's not the biggest jump then to Formula 4. Yes, different you know, dynamics when it comes to getting to grips with a single-seater piece of machinery, but they're getting to grips pretty quickly. A lot of these guys will understand that this is the only way if they want to get to Europe, if they want to get that pathway towards Formula 1. And there's a long, long pathway. You're speaking about Formula 4, then Formula 3, a couple of years of Formula 3 maybe, a couple of years of Formula 2 maybe, if you're lucky, and then get to the pinnacle of motorsport, which is Formula 1, where only 2 Indians have been before. So there is a long, long track, but at least we're getting sort of pathways set in place.
Keep marking out the names of all these young drivers, because a few years down the line, they might just be in Formula 1. But let's take a quick look at the cars that they're racing. I was down there in the pit lane earlier this morning, and I was able to get a decent idea of what these cars are actually like. So let's take a quick look at that, shall we? And now let's talk about the most exciting part of this entire championship, the cars. Now, this Miguel Formula 4 car weighs roughly 525 kilos. And for context, have you seen a Maruti 800? This car is half the weight of a Maruti 800 and has 5 times as much power. And the reason why I mentioned that is because this carbon fiber body makes it super, super light. And when you speak to every single one of the drivers on the entire grid, there's one common adjective that they always talk about. They say it is freaky fast. And there's a reason behind that. It's got a fantastic 1.3-liter turbo engine that chucks out roughly 160 to 180 horsepower. And that means on a straight, you could go up to roughly 240 kilometers per hour. That's right, 240. It will absolutely blow your brains out. It's that fast. But at a circuit like the MIC, we'll go at roughly around 200 kph. But the straights, that's not the fun part. The fun really begins when you turn the car sideways, because cornering is what it does so well. And I'll tell you why it does that. Mainly 2 things, 2 forms of grip. Mechanical grip, aerodynamic grip. The mechanical grip comes in from the tires. And frankly, that's one of the biggest challenges for all the drivers, because these tires are super grippy. But when you've got conditions that are so hot, I mean, roughly 30, 35 degrees. If you go out for a walk here, you'll come back sweating. Imagine driving at the absolute limit. You will be boiling hot and your body will feel exhausted. And so, imagine the load on the tires. Maintaining grip is going to be a main challenge for all the drivers here. And then, the second part of the speed comes in from this, the side pod, the front wing, and also that gigantic rear wing that we've got at the back over here. These are aerodynamic components. Make sure that the car goes through the air as smoothly as possible, because through the corners, that is precisely what you need. I mean, you've all put your hand outside the window of a car and maybe let it go left, right, right? If there's less resistance, if you make your hand go this way, the hand glides through the air, which means it cuts through it, which means you go faster. That's the purpose of these devices. Now, one last thing I have to talk to you about. We know this car is fast. We know this car is light. Is it safe enough? And the answer to that question is yes. The reason behind that is firstly because of this halo. Now, you might be thinking, halo, what is this giant chappal or a flip-flop like thing on this car right here? But this is the most advanced safety device that we've seen in racing for quite a while. Apart from having a carbon fiber tub, this thing will really protect heavy impacts. In fact, you could have a giant wheel of a car coming in and crashing on this, but the driver will still be alive. That's how sturdy it is. Think of Romain Grosjean's accident in Formula 1. He went through an Armco barrier in a fireball and still survived. Big part of it is this halo, and also the carbon fiber structure. It makes it light, but also super sturdy. And frankly, that's what you need in a race car like this one. And one last thing. The biggest point, no electronics, no traction control, no ABS, no electronic aids. In fact, the traction control is the person sitting right here, the driver. That's the biggest variable right here in the Indian Formula 4 Championship, and that is what we're so excited to see. No electronic aids in conditions like this. Well, that was a proper challenge for the Indian Formula 4 drivers. Look at all the wildlife here. Even the birds are having fun here.
Well, they've got some challenges of their own. You've got some wonderful wildlife as well over the past. I've actually on a bike seen a couple of snakes come through. No snakes at the moment, but the early bird gets the worm. There's a few early birds that got through before the rain came in. But there's some immense talent, isn't there, Somil, when it comes to the racing on track as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Most of them 17, 18-year-old children. I think children is the fair word to put it out there. But in terms of mental development, I don't think you can call them children, because when you're touring around the world going racing, you learn so much about racing, about your life. In fact, most of these kids, Akshay Bora, for example, learned how to pack his own luggage at 11, learned how to cook and everything, does school online, travels all on his own, and lives independently without his parents in Italy with his brother at the age of 16. The human development is insane, and also the development from a technical perspective that championships like this offer, that really is the most amazing part to me. And The best part is, there are not just 1 or 2 drivers, 11 of them learning in the most accelerated fashion possible. That's the best part of the Indian Formula 4.
It absolutely is. I think when you look at some of the drivers down the field as well, Akshay Bora, 16 years of age, expected to actually sort of go on to do big things. I think he's probably the title favorite coming in. You think of Alex Sawyer, never done single-seater racing before, 15 years of age, from Vietnam. He comes in with a P4 performance in his first ever single-seater race. So overall, I think, you know, you've got to say that these guys, and I won't call them kids, I'm going to call them young men. They're braving what circumstances are at the moment as well. And to do what they've done under the pressure they're under, really, really kudos to these young men who are quickly developing into some brave boys on track.
And I want to share the story of 2 of you with them very, very quickly. We mentioned about Akshay Bora, and there's also Jack Taylor in only his 2nd year of racing. First year of car racing, 2nd year of racing overall. Let's take a quick look at what their stories are like.
Guys, the podium's getting ready.
And I've done the whole season in Europe in Formula 4 and the Italian Championship, European Championship and the UAE Championship. And I believe, yeah, it's been a great year and the car is a lot of fun. You know, it's the most junior of all the downforce and single-seater cars. So I think it's been a great learning experience and it's been a lot of fun. And now in the Indian F4 Championship, we're racing the F4 cars. It's a different chassis, so it'll take some getting used to, but it's still the same fun driving.
So yeah, I got into motorsport about 2 years ago. My dad got me a go-kart, and so I just did local races in Tasmania. Then about June this year, we saw the Ferrari Driver Academy scouting program in Asia, so we applied for that and we got in. And then we did that, and then we saw the Indian F4 Championship, so yeah, now we're here.
Enthusiastic to also join and to start, and I would always beg to go to the tracks and the races, and eventually I had my turn in professional karting in India for a few years, and then every year I got more and more serious before going full-time in Europe since 2018.
Yeah, I think the Formula 4 cars are good. I think it's they're good to go from cars to Formula 4. They're not too fast where it's like out of control, and they're good.
And phenomenal to see one of these 2 youngsters on the top step of the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got Akshay Bora winning on the top step of the podium, celebrating with the Indian national anthem playing in the background. That is the moment that you live for as a racing driver, don't you, Cyril? To listen to your own national anthem on the top step.
100%. You know, the podium celebrations are one of the key aspects of motorsport. You know, it's the glorifying moment after a really tough event. In motorsport, you have 9 out of 10 days that don't go your way for young Akshay Bora, therefore, to revel in the spoils alongside him, Shahan Ali Mohsin and Rishon Rajiv. Wonderful moments for these 3 guys as well. As we said, the average age, 17, 18 years of age, but to be the first winners of the Indian F4 Championship, that is a big, big tick in the right box as well. Shahan Ali Mohsin, 19 years of age. Rishon Rajiv came in on Friday not knowing exactly what he was going to be up to this weekend. But to pull off a result the way he has, wonderful work. Shahan Ali Mohsin continues his good work as he's done across India. He knows this circuit inside out, and all of that experience coming to grips with this circuit, delivering 3rd spot in this first ever race.
And then in P2 was Rishon Rajiv. Incredible story. In fact, on Monday, he's got to go back home and write an exam. That's how crazy the story is. He was studying until Friday, got a phone call. Hey, Rishon, do you want to do Indian F4? He said, yes. And I'm so glad he did, because he eventually gets P2 in this first ever Indian Formula 4 race in tricky, tricky conditions. Presented, of course, by Mr. Akhilesh Reddy, a man who's so important in the world of Indian motorsport these days.
Yeah, absolutely is one of the pioneers of this IRL festival. But all eyes now will be on young Akshay Bora, and what a result this is for him too. A young man, 16 years of age. He was touted for big things coming into this category as well. He's already regarded as a title favourite, and he's done himself no harm with this first result. There is Akbar Ibrahim from the FMSCI handing Akshay Bora the winner's trophy. He is our first winner in the Indian F4 Championship. He's had his experience through in other Formula 4 categories. The little brother of Nikhil Bora, he is going to be very, very chuffed with that result. And what a result it is for all three of these men.
And it's going to be incredible to watch him celebrate as well, because Akshay Bora, one of the most animated characters in the entire grid. If you're just having a normal conversation by yourself, he will find a way to make himself a part of it. He always wants to be in the mix, and that eagerness is also seen on the racetrack, because whenever there's a fight, whenever there's a battle, Akshay is going to be in there. But today, he went away from that battle. Incredible to see all of our podium sitters together. Shahan Ali Mohsin on the right, Rishon Rajiv on the left, and Akshay Bora, the winner, right down in the center. Yes, he's got a lot of track time. Yes, he's competed in Europe, but still to come out here and to absolutely blitz the field in the first ever race, it takes quite something. And we know for a fact that he's a talent to watch for in the future. What really impresses you the most about Akshay, Sohail?
You know, I think it's just the calmness. We heard from him before the race started as well. I think when you come in as a favourite, there's a different kind of pressure. When you come in with sort of nothing to expect, when you come in not knowing what you need to deliver, it's a very different feeling. But when you come in knowing that you are the title favourite, there's this badge on you and everyone's hunting you down.
Yeah.
And as a 16-year-old, that can't be easy, that sort of pressure. So for this young 16-year-old, having had the experience he's had in Italy and other forms of racing as well, he's carried that in, but he's done it with a sense of calm, with a sense of composure that we don't see from too many 16-year-olds. Even in the wet conditions, the torrential rain that was coming in towards the back end of that race, he just knew what he had to do. He kept it together, held his nose clean, and towards the back end of that race, we knew that he was always going to be the man in control. From the get-go, a lights to fag victory is never easy, but when you get the job done that easily in the end, it gives you a sense of confidence heading into the next few races to come as well. So for Akshay Bora, that is the perfect start to this championship.
And just the amount of sacrifices that they've made in the racing career as well. To live away from your parents and your family in Italy completely by your own. With his brother, of course, that's one helpful factor. But still, not seeing them for most of the year. I'd only seen them 2 or 3 times a year, just so that you can focus on your racing. As a young kid, I can't imagine doing that. But yeah. Akshay is doing that so well.
Yeah, look, I can draw on my own experience of seeing my brother do this through the years as well. And he moved away from home at the age of 16. He went across at 17 and did Formula Asia, won that, then went to England. And as a 17, 18-year-old, you're in England for the first time, you're in the UK doing British Formula 3. You're fighting a very lone battle. You know, there's an unbelievable field of racing drivers that have a lot more money, higher budgets. You're up against it. You're not necessarily at the front end of the field, the sharp end where you want to be. And so when you're living away from home, away from your parents, you're not dominating as he's done in this first race. There's a lot of thoughts that come into your mind as well, as he's a bit too young to even drink a sip of that champagne under the age of 18. But look, there you go. That's the inexperience showing. Lando Norris style? No, not quite. See, this is where the age shows, guys. I've got to say, the experience is all brilliant when the lid comes on, but this is where you can tell that these kids are 15, 16, 17 years old. There you go. He finally gets it popped up. And there is the spray that he wanted as well. Akshay Bora. There's the innocence that still finds a way to shine through, doesn't it? Because you can have all the experience under the sun when the helmet comes on, but that tells you that these are just kids waiting for their spot in the spotlight, and they've got that right here with the Indian F4 Championship. So, like I said, when you go away from home, when you know you've got to do it all on your own, you also have to draw on your own motivation. You've not got someone pushing you every step of the way. For him, he does, with his elder brother Nikhil Bora having been there and done that just a few years ahead of him. So he's only stepping in that pathway that Nikhil's already done. So that's one advantage that Akshay has, to sort of do exactly what the elder brother did. But for someone else, for all the other youngsters trying to chart their own way here, it is not the easiest, because it's an individual sport, it's a lonely battle, and it's an expensive one as well. So every mistake proves costly. As I said earlier, you've got 9 out of 10 days which don't necessarily go your way. But that 10th day, the day we just saw here, top step at the podium, that makes it all worthwhile.
And same can be said for Rishon Rajiv as well. And let's get to that story in a second, because we will soon be hearing from all the drivers on the podium as well. Let's wait and see and talk more about that. But on Rishon's subject, who would have thought, right? 1 week ago, he was chilling, studying for exams, working out, going out with his friends, and then today, the most random thing in the world, getting P2 in the first ever Indian F4 race. Let's hear from all the drivers though, because we've got Niharika Ghodpade with the podium sitters.
It's your first. Hi, I'm with Akshay Bora, your Indian F4's very first winner. How does it feel?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's an amazing feeling, but first I want to thank everyone for making this event possible. I have to thank my family, thank RPPL, thank MP Motorsport, and everyone else who made this Indian F4 Championship possible. It's been an incredible event so far, and there's still one more day to go.
You've inherited an F4 win before, if I'm not wrong. This is your first one proper start to finish. Can you walk us through what it felt like?
Yeah, obviously I've not crossed the line first before, but I did take a win in Barcelona in the European F4 Championship. But yeah, now to take the checkered flag, be the first one across, is definitely a different feeling.
And what was it like on the final lap when the rain came in?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there was the safety car, so I wasn't too worried about being fast, but there was a lot of rain in the last sector, especially the last corner. I almost went off just from the lack of grip and the amount of water.
You've had some very feisty competitors. Rishon is very, very experienced. Going up against him, what did it feel like?
Yeah, obviously, coming from Europe, I have the experience of being in the cars, but definitely not the experience with this tire, car, or circuit. So it's definitely been a challenge, but I think I can still adapt and still squeeze a bit more water from the stone.
How does this set you up for the next 3 rounds? And what do you have in mind when it comes to your goals and targets for this season, particularly the Indian F4?
I've said this a lot throughout my racing career, but I don't focus on championships, I focus on races. So I think we have to look at everything step by step and focus on the process to get there.
All right, thank you. I hope you enjoyed your win and spraying your champagne. And congratulations once again.
Thank you.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is a grand slam from Akshay Bora. Set pole position, led every lap, set fastest lap, win as well. Phenomenal, phenomenal drive. That's how you do it, right?
But also when you listen to him there, I think that tells you how he is a cut above the rest. Just the maturity in that answer.
Yeah.
The first answer, thanking everyone for putting things together. It's sort of the quintessential racing driver's answer. He's learned the hard yards, he's, I think, gone through the processes, and he's clearly understood what it is to be a racing driver, because you are your own brand, you are your own formula in many ways in the world of Formula Car racing. So for him to hear that, to hear the words that he said there as well, as you see him raising that trophy for the first time in Indian Formula 4, you start to understand that there is a bit more depth to Akshay Bora. You also heard it in that last answer. He said, while there's one eye on the championship and for everyone else, for him, he's focused on one thing, and that's delivering race wins, and he's done that first up to begin. Lovely moment for him as well, spraying that champagne around here in Chennai, the home of Indian motorsport. They've got a young man to watch out for in Akshay Bora.
While he was phenomenal, Rishon Rajiv was amazing as well. Let's go down to Niharika, who's with Rishon Rajiv.
Rishon, you're second, and since you started this weekend, it's been second in qualifying, and then you had that front row start, those opportunities to get past Akshay. What happened, and can you walk us through your race?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was very important for me to get a good start, to have a shot at the win. Unfortunately, just dropped the clutch too much and had a lot of wheel spin. So I was looking back in the mirror, hoping to keep second place instead of actually going for first. And then after the first lap, I saw that the third place was a little behind. So then I was just looking forward to try and catch up to Akshay. And then we had a safety car. So it was just about keeping the tires in the right temperature. And then after the safety car went out, I think we got a good safety car restart. I think also our pace was very good, very promising. But then, yeah, we were catching up, and then I made a mistake out of the second last corner, went wide, and then that really cost us because the gap just became way more than it was before. And yeah, but the positives to take is that the pace is there. We can, of course, fight tomorrow again, and hopefully we can get the first place.
How close did you feel that that you could smell a bit of victory when the rain came down on the last lap?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I was hoping for the safety car not to come because I could copy what Akshay was doing, and if he made a mistake, I always had a chance for victory. But then, yeah, I think it was a good decision for the safety car because it was really dangerous towards the end. But yeah, I think we can take the positives from this weekend, from this race, and then just learn and then get better for race 2.
So you're doing the Indian F4 now, but what is your roadmap when it comes to your career ahead, and what are your goals and targets ending this season in 2023, and even after that, for that matter?
Yeah, for now, just focusing on this weekend, on this championship. I think this is a long championship, so it's just step by step, race by race. I don't want to think too much ahead because as I said, this is a very long race weekend, and we need to get the best out of every single race we can if we want to fight for the championship, be consistent, not have too many ups and downs, So right now it's just on the Indian championship and then on tomorrow basically, and then we'll see about the future.
And I hear you have an exam to go to also on Monday. Congratulations, and I hope you get to clinch more wins and fight for the championship this year in Indian F4.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
He did not want to be reminded of that examination.
I think I just took the glory away from that moment from him. The minute you tell a 16-year-old or 15-year-old about an exam that's coming up,
exactly,
it's not a good sign. But for now, enjoy it, Rishan, because think about the exam on Monday morning. It's a really good result for him. And look, he was sensational in last year's IRL as well. So for him, I think to back up what he did last time around, to deliver a result first up here, I think it bodes well for the rest of the championship for Rishan Rajiv.
Absolutely. And let's go to the man in P3. A very impressive performance from Shahan Ali Mohsin. He's downstairs with Niharika.
No, wait. Yep. How does it feel like to be racing the first round of the Indian F4 Championship?
Of course, it's a very prestigious thing to race in. I didn't know I was racing in F4. My dad didn't tell me. It was a surprise. I thought I was racing for Delhi in IRL. When I came here, he told me I'm racing in F4. So it's a very prestigious thing to race in the first F4 championship being held in India, because obviously it's a very big thing for Indian motorsports as well. Because we have FIA F4 in India. Normally, if you wanted to race, we had to go abroad. But now it's in India, so it's a great thing for the upcoming drivers as well.
You're on the first podium of the Indian F4 Championship. What is that like?
Of course, it's a good start because it's a very long championship, and of course the main aim is to win the championship, it's not to win a race. So I think we are off to a good start because I was struggling with pace the whole weekend. I know I don't have the pace to keep up with Rishan or Akshay. So I think third is the best we could have got, and I'm pretty happy with that.
Could you walk us through your race with the bits before the rain, and how do you think you could have done that better? And are you satisfied with the position you're in?
Yep, I'm pretty satisfied with my position because I had a decent launch. I could have attacked Rishan in the first 3 corners, but I knew it would be a risky move, but I didn't go for it because it's a 25-minute race. We have a long time ahead. Then Rishan had pulled off from me because I couldn't keep up with him. I didn't have the pace. Then it was more, I was looking in my rear view mirrors, and the guy behind me we had a gap. So I think I focused on race. I wanted to be consistent because I don't think we could have got any better than P3. And when the rain came down, I just hope the safety car came because I couldn't see anything. There's no visibility at all.
Yeah. Do you think, were you wishing, like Rishan said earlier, I was hoping the safety car didn't come out. Was there any way you could have closed the gap to him there? Or was it just about nursing the car back?
It's a 50-50 chance. Maybe I would have overtaken, maybe I would have got overtaken. So it's a very big risk. But I'm happy the safety car came because it was dangerous as well. And we could have crashed, but yeah.
Right. Congratulations and thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Incredible to see Shahan Ali Mohsin in P3 in the first ever Indian Formula 4 race. I remember watching him, even I was a kid back then, but I remember watching him as a 13-year-old at the Bund International Circuit, drifting go-karts in front of the main stretch. And from there to here, racing in the Formula 2000s, competing abroad in Italy, that is quite the progression. It's a good pit stop for him, right, this series, on his main journey to Formula 1.
Look, I think we keep saying Formula 1, but I think we've got to sort of step back from that because it's a long way off. I think we shouldn't even mention Formula 1 just yet because...
Well, the kids definitely want to say that. All the kids
they
definitely
want to
have one
say
eye
it, but
on
I think you can't think about it yet. I think we've got to be realistic because the pathway to Formula 1 is such a long one. You can have everything go your way, but there's still so many variables. So let's speak maybe about Formula 3 next, Formula 2 next, right? I think even when you speak of Jehan Daruwala, who struggled in Formula 2 after a point to make results go his way, switched across to Formula E. Now, for these young guys, for Shahan Ali Mohsin, it's amazing because at the age of 19, he's actually one of the more experienced campaigners, as you said. He's been around the karting circuit a long time. He's won Indian national titles. He's been a part of the MRF 1600s. He's done a lot of single-seater racing himself. So he comes in with a lot more caliber in single-seater racing than many others do. And for him, I think it's an opportunity, another one, to maybe try and add another feather to that cap. He'd love to go a couple of steps further. I don't think he's terribly happy with P3, even though he said he's satisfied and that's the best he could have got out of this race. But I think going forward, he's someone that knows this circuit in Madras inside out. He'll want a bit more from his own performances, and I think as he understands this Miguel car a bit more in the Indian F4 Championship, he'll want to extract a bit more potential out of it.
And hopefully we are able to see a lot more of that and a lot more closer fights between all the drivers. But folks, I think it's time for a short break. We'll be back very, very quickly, but stay right here.
India, it's lights out and away we go. The FIA Formula 4 India is here. Along with the Indian Racing League, 36 drivers, 6 teams, 2 championships coming to light up the streets of Chennai. More thrills, more adrenaline and plenty of action with India's first night race at the heart of Chennai. Are you ready? India, it's lights out and away we go. The FIA Formula 4 India is here. Along with the Indian Racing League, 36 drivers, 6 teams, 2 championships coming to light up the streets of Chennai. More thrills, more adrenaline and plenty of action with India's first night race at the heart of Chennai. Are you ready? India, it's lights out and away we go. The FIA Formula 4 India is here. Along with the Indian Racing League, 36 drivers, 6 teams, 2 championships coming to light up the streets of Chennai. More thrills, more adrenaline and plenty of action with India's first night race at the heart of Chennai. Are you ready? India, it's lights out and away we go. The FIA Formula 4 India is here. Along with the Indian Racing League, 36 drivers, 6 teams, 2 championships coming to light up the streets of Chennai. More thrills, more adrenaline and plenty of action with India's first night race at the heart of Chennai. Are you ready? India, it's lights out and away we go. The FIA Formula 4 India is here. Along with the Indian Racing League, 36 drivers, 6 teams, 2 championships coming to light up the streets of Chennai. More thrills, more adrenaline and plenty of action with India's first night race at the heart of Chennai. Are you ready? India, it's lights out and away we go. The FIA Formula 4 India is here. Along with the Indian Racing League, 36 drivers, 6 teams, 2 championships coming to light up the streets of Chennai. More thrills, more adrenaline and plenty of action with India's first night race at the heart of Chennai. Are you ready?
We've all heard of that poem, haven't we? Rain, rain, go away, come again another day. We desperately need to sing that because the rain has gone away. We're just in the process of cleaning up the track to make sure that it's dry. Because if it is, we are going to be getting race 1 of the 2023 Indian Racing League going to be underway at the Madras International Circuit. The conditions have been crazy. On the last lap of the Indian Formula 4 Championship race, we saw an incredible storm hitting the circuit. Touch wood, that's gone so hill, and because it has gone, there is a good chance that we get to see those IRL cars in action. And when they are in action, Oh, what a sight. And also, what a sound that is as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I'm just looking over my left shoulder, and while there are dark clouds, the good news is there's no rain in the offing, and it's a very experienced set of marshals that are here at the Madras International Circuit. It's arguably, as we said earlier, it is India's home of motorsport, and there's a lot of experience behind handling conditions like this, because we've seen this before in Madras. It's not new to November or October or December, but we do get spurts of torrential rain. So hopefully we'll get all the super soppers and the brushes out, and we'll get that standing water out of the way. And if we even get a couple of sort of laps in terms of warm-up laps, the spray that will actually come off the cars should get rid of any other standing water that's remaining. So when it comes to the IRL machines, yes, I think we're not far away if it stays dry from getting this first race of season 2 underway, because those cars are worth a sight as well.
Absolutely, and also the format as well. Two drivers competing for the same car. Year 1 last year was a benchmark. We started off with something. In year 2, I think we've upgraded the driver lineup. So many young Indians now, like Sai Sanjay, Mohammad Rayan, who have excelled on the domestic stage, now taking part in this one. What really excites you the most about this championship, Sohail? Is it the cars, the drivers, or just a new format that we have this year?
Well, I think the format's pretty similar, except for a couple of changes. I think there's no shared format of cars, which I think is a good thing. You also qualify for yourself, unlike qualifying for your teammate, which I think was a little unfair to some of the drivers. But I think overall, for me, what excites me most is the ability for young Indian drivers to share the car and rub shoulders with some really experienced names in the category as well. You've got a Neil Jani coming back. You've got an Alvaro Parente, who's been a part of multiple series, including the A1GP back in the day as well. He's done a lot of single-seater racing around the world. He's done sports car racing too. Ollie Webb will be a part of this series. You've got plenty of talent, John Lancaster in the mix too. So for our young Indian drivers to rub shoulders and share data and understanding and learnings from these guys who've raced in Europe, raced in America, and raced in much higher categories, to me that actually is the most exciting part of the IRL. And you're driving in the same car, so you know you've got a benchmark with which to sort of go up against. You can't cheat that benchmark. It's been set by your teammate or someone else on the next day as well. So for me, it is a real test of true caliber of racing as well in pretty similar machinery.
And one of those drivers, one of those young Indian drivers we all love to watch is Akil Rabindra. Aston Martin Academy driver in GT4 sports cars back in Europe. He's not exactly young, he's 27 years old, but he's got that experience mixed in as well. And we saw that last year with him being crowned the drivers' champion of the Indian Racing League. So why don't we do one thing? Why don't we get to learn more about Akil Rabindra? Here's a quick package on that.
Hi guys, my name is Akil Rabindra. I'm 27 years old and I'm from Bangalore. I am the current 2022 IRL champion and I'm really looking forward to starting 2023 season. I started my karting and racing career in 2010. This was basically, I used to do recreational karting, and then it was pointed out that I was kind of fast, and then moved on to professional go-karting. Raced a lot of Formula Series in India and Touring Car Series in India, and once I did well in India, I moved to Asia to race, and then eventually going to the UK and in Europe to do Formula Car racing and GT car racing. The Indian Racing League is a great championship for people like myself and also upcoming drivers. It's a great platform to show your talent, and the future of it is very bright, because we want to make it a league which is followed by most Indians in India and consumed by most Indians. The whole rise of Formula One has taken such a big jump in the last few years, and we want to follow the same footsteps and making this league one of the most watched league in India. My formula for success has always been very simple. You know, there are a few things you got to do right. Focus on them, focus on the moment, focus on the next corner, and then the next corner, and eventually laps will pass, and before you know it, you will have good lap times and a good result. My role model in motorsport has been Lewis Hamilton. I've always liked his driving style before he became a world champion. So I've been following him for many years, and the way he carries himself on track and off track, there's a lot to learn from him and do well in life. I want to see all you guys on track, and wishing me luck. Thank you.
just from those last couple of minutes as well, we could tell how calm and how composed Akil Rabindra really is. A proper role model for so many young children, because even in tricky conditions, he's not phased at all. He's totally relaxed. I think nothing can break him. I've never seen Akil Rabindra angry, which is why on track he's so consistent, because he's always in the right frame of mind. He's one of the main contenders to watch for this year.
He certainly is. He was, for me, the driver of the season in season 1 as well. He had the likes of Neil Jani alongside him, but he kind of, in many ways, matched him. He went toe-to-toe. He outclassed everyone else in the field as well. So for me, Akil Rabindra, all the experience in the world. He's also been racing GT4s. Very, very different category when you're doing saloon car racing. But when you come into single-seater racing, or sort of crossovers, as we call it as well, with these Wolf cars, they're kind of a crossover between the prototypes in the Le Mans races that you might have seen at home and single-seater racing. So for Akil Rabindra, he uses that experience to actually come to grips with this piece of machinery. And I think what he did in season 1 will only give him a lot of confidence coming into season 2. He doesn't have Neil Jani alongside him for today. He's got Alvaro Parente though, which is just as good a teammate to have. And I think that's someone that he will lean on for a bit of experience. And I think Alvaro will be leaning on him, given that Akil's had the experience in the Wolf machinery as well. So it's very interesting to see guys who've driven around the world still getting inputs from young Indian drivers, and to me that's one of the specialties of the IRL.
And it's interesting you mentioned that, because Akil and Alvaro always chatting to each other, even in the hotel room, even when they're having dinner or at the circuit, always comparing and sharing notes, not just about this circuit or the car, but generally in racing as well. But that's just Akil Rabindra. There are so many other competitors to watch for as well. And my mind firstly goes out to Ruhan Alva. P1 in qualifying earlier today, outclassing the likes of Rahul Hyman, John Lancaster, Alvaro Parente, people who have actually been racing for as long as Ruhan has been alive. That is the interesting part. But Ruhan only half a tenth away from Rahul Hyman. Those two young drivers, my heart really beats for them, because they will be exciting us all the way through the year.
Yeah, I think Ruhan Alva, we saw it last year as well, didn't we, Somil, with the way he goes about things. Again, very, very crafty, young guy with a very mature head on his shoulders. But Rahul Hyman, I think for me, he's outpaced what we expected from himself as well. So Rahul Hyman, Ruhan Alva, then you look down the field, Alvaro Parente, he will use his racecraft to come into the fore during the races. Yes, he may not have had a front row start, and when he's starting from the middle of the grid, that's going to be one danger man to watch. John Lancaster, Ollie Webb when he gets into the mix of things as well. Mitch Gilbert. These are the guys when it comes to the races that you've got to watch out for, because when you find a gap, it's the Indian guys, the youngsters that might think about it twice. These guys are going to be straight in there and they're not going to hold back.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the word of these youngsters, let's actually touch up with Ruhan firstly. In qualifying earlier today, he's going to be firstly starting on P1 in this race that we hopefully get later on today. But that's Ruhan in P1, Rahul Hyman in P2. On Ruhan, he's sharing the car with Fabian Wohlven from Liechtenstein. They're not going to be in a feature race together unlike last year, but it's a great, great strong pairing. But only at the age of 17, being the youngest driver, can you believe that he's actually a driver coach as well? He's coaching drivers who are, what, 2-3 years elder than him. That is proper talent. I think he's a prototype if there ever was one.
He is, and I think that tells you where Indian motorsport is. I think these guys are getting more and more exposure at a very young age. They're doing so much karting that, you know, guys like Naren and Karun never had that opportunity to actually get through the karting system, which is something that young Indian drivers like Ruhan Alva have. And then your ability to sort of pair that up by racing outside of India, by racing in other categories within the country as well, whether it's your Formula LGBs, whether it's an MRF 1600, you've now got the capability to do multiple series parallelly, and therefore as a 17-year-old you've got so much experience on a certain circuit that no one else might have, and you're therefore able to offer up that experience to so many others that may have raced around Europe, around America and around Asia, but don't necessarily have the capabilities within our Indian shows as well.
And it's amazing to see a platform for them to shine as well, that the IRL provides them. That's Ruhan Alva done. We've spoken about Akil Rabindra, two really exciting Indian drivers. Any other ones that excite you? And there's a lot of really fun female racing drivers, Fabian Wohlven being the first of them. Teams champion last year for Godspeed Kochi. She's done the W Series as well, lots of single-seater racing, sports cars as well. I think she's going to be so much fun to watch this year.
Yeah, two names that come to mind. Fabian Volvend, of course, one of them. Alistair Jung, the other as well, who we've not really touched upon. I think the raw pace that we saw from Alistair last time around was outrageously good. He's also got a really nice demeanor about him, really enjoyable character, very fun character around the paddock as well, in the hotel, after the race, when it comes to celebrating his wins too. But I think Alistair Jung will be tested. We didn't see the pace that he had last time around. When he stepped in the car, he was quick straight away. But for Fabian Volvend, she does a lot of endurance racing too. She's got a lot of experience racing in Europe. So as a female racing driver here in India, she brings an element that will actually offer up so much more to teams, to other female drivers within the field as well. So a lot of responsibility on someone like her, because in many ways, she is one of the poster girls of the IRL too.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is the drivers. The drivers are going to be taking on a really challenging car, the Wolf GB08 Thunder. It sounds thunderous, but let's actually take a quick look at what the car really is like and what are the key characteristics. And now let's talk about one of the most essentially beautifully sounding cars that I have ever seen in the world of motorsport. This is one of my favorites. This is the Wolf Thunder GB08. And yes, it's made by Wolf Motors. It doesn't quite howl quite like a wolf. Rather, it roars. And the reason behind that is that incredible engine that we've got in the back right there. That Aprilia RS V4 1000cc 4-cylinder engine is a thing of beauty. This car is an absolute torque master, going up to roughly 13,000 RPM. That is enough to absolutely make you go wild. And yes, while driving, all the drivers do tend to complain of ear trouble because this thing is extremely, extremely loud. But frankly, nobody complains because it sounds like hot chocolate going down through your body. So rich, so fine, so beautiful. Let's talk about the engine for a second. It is a thing of beauty. It's won 7 Superbike championships, 3 for the constructors, 4 for the riders in the World Superbike Championship. It is a piece of art. And I mentioned about the rev range going to the 13,000 RPM. There is power at every single part of it. So when you put your foot down, there's power, power, more power, until the very end, where you get like a firm gust of power that makes you go down so fast down the straight that it blows your mind. The bike can go up to 300, 320 kph. This car is a little heavier than a bike, of course. So this can go up to roughly 250 odd kph. But that doesn't matter, because as I mentioned with the Formula 4 cars as well, it's the corners where it really earns its medals. And for that, it's not mainly the aerodynamics that does the magic, but more the mechanical grip, which makes it so tricky for the drivers, because everything is down to how they understand the dynamics of the car. The suspension, the tires, the way they put their power down. That is how you get a really, really good lap in these cars. One more thing that I've got to talk to you about is how you put the power down. When you've got so many revs, so much of RPM, we need to talk about the gearbox, because it's a flappy paddle gearbox. No manual clutch, nothing like that. Semi-automatic. So up a gear, down a gear. That's how you shift. And the steering wheel is so rudimentary, very basic. You only get your lap time. So as a driver, you're very much reliant on your instinct, which is what makes a race car so much fun. And now, folks, the best part of it all, the seat. We've got to talk about it because they have one whole day just to design the seat. It's got to be millimeter perfect to fit the body of all the drivers, because if they're not comfortable, they will wobble around the car, they'll shake, it's not fun. And in fact, these seats are so good, the drivers can actually sleep in them. But when they're on the track, they will be going wild. Trust me, it's going to be fun. Incredible cars. These are the Wolf GB08 Thunders. They sound phenomenal. And Suhail, what do you like the most about these cars? For me, it's the sound. Anything else that comes up to your mind?
Well, I think it's actually the look and feel of it. Look, it's got a thunderous sound as it goes with the name as well. But it's kind of that perfect crossover. You know, we said it earlier. If anyone's watched Le Mans racing, it is a fantastic category of prototype racing, sports car racing. And when you sort of look at these machines, it's kind of the perfect crossover, even for a driver who's sort of getting to grips with single-seaters and saloon car racing or prototype racing. This is kind of the ideal mix as well. And for any of the fans, I actually think it's a great piece of kit to listen to look at. They look gorgeous. They sound unbelievable as well. But from a driver's perspective, you've got that power drive that you want. You've got that delivery of torque that you want as well. Over 220 horsepower. I mean, that's something that is no easy feat to drive as well. So there's a lot behind this piece of kit. You can understand why even around the Madras International Circuit, they're 5 seconds a lap quicker than the Formula 4 cars. That tells you a bit more about the grunt that these cars do possess. So for me, it's just the drivability, the workability of these pieces of machinery, and they're amazing to listen to on track too.
Phenomenal stuff. And these cars, for context, folks, roughly 250 kilos lighter than a Maruti 800. What is a Maruti? It's barely anything, and it's got 5 times as much power. I know the 800 is not really a fast car, but then that less weight, that much power, it's a daunting task for all the drivers. And we saw in the first season, Suhail, many drivers actually made errors. They were not able to put the power down very well. And it's a challenging task. Most of them are also youngsters. So development, another key part of it for them.
Absolutely is. And when you think of the power, the derived power that comes from the Aprilia engine, and that is what it is. I mean, you think of the machinery of the Wolf cars, but you then think of the engine that comes from your Aprilia bikes, and you start to understand where the drivetrain, where the power delivery comes from. And it's not easy to come to grips with. It's why you will see a lot of errors from a lot of drivers that are driving these cars for the first time. They're not easy. And that's why even an Alvaro Parente, who's driven a lot of other cars around the world, this is completely different to anything else, and he'll therefore have to lean on the experience of an Akil Rabindra, of everyone else in the field that may have driven these cars before. He may have given Neil Jani a call and said, what did you think? How do you think, I could have gone about this a bit better? So for me, that is the beauty of it. You've got a lot of guys who just had the ability to drive the Wolf car last time around that might just have the edge.
And that is something we are so excited to see in the race as well. But folks, it is a time for a short break right now. So let's be back in a couple of seconds. Stay right here.
India, it's lights out and away we go. The FIA Formula 4 India is here. Along with the Indian Racing League, 36 drivers, 6 teams, 2 championships coming to light up the streets of Chennai. More thrills, more adrenaline and plenty of action with India's first night race at the heart of Chennai. Are you ready? India, it's lights out and away we go. The FIA Formula 4 India is here. Along with the Indian Racing League, 36 drivers, 6 teams, 2 championships coming to light up the streets of Chennai. More thrills, more adrenaline and plenty of action with India's first night race at the heart of Chennai. Are you ready? India, it's lights out and away we go. The FIA Formula 4 India is here. Along with the Indian Racing League, 36 drivers, 6 teams, 2 championships coming to light up the streets of Chennai. More thrills, more adrenaline and plenty of action with India's first night race at the heart of Chennai. Are you ready? India, it's lights out and away we go. The FIA Formula 4 India is here. Along with the Indian Racing League, 36 drivers, 6 teams, 2 championships coming to light up the streets of Chennai. More thrills, more adrenaline and plenty of action with India's first night race at the heart of Chennai. Are you ready? India, it's lights out and away we go. The FIA Formula 4 India is here. Along with the Indian Racing League, 36 drivers, 6 teams, 2 championships coming to light up the streets of Chennai. More thrills, more adrenaline and plenty of action with India's first night race at the heart of Chennai. Are you ready? India, it's lights out and away we go. The FIA Formula 4 India is here. Along with the Indian Racing League, 36 drivers, 6 teams, 2 championships coming to light up the streets of Chennai. More thrills, more adrenaline and plenty of action with India's first night race.
Welcome back in, ladies and gentlemen, to the Madras International Circuit, a very rainy Madras International Circuit. And we've got some unfortunate news as a result. Because of the conditions, we can't quite go ahead with the Indian Racing League Race 1 today. But that means we're going to get more action tomorrow, because that race has been rescheduled to tomorrow, and that means more crazy racing. 2 Indian Racing League races, two Indian F4 races. Sunday is going to be a bumper one, but we still saw a phenomenal days of racing action.
We did.
2 qualifying sessions for Indian F4, 1 for Indian Racing League, and then the big one, the first ever Indian F4 race. Let's take a quick look at the highlights of that. When the 5 red lights went out, Akshay Bora from the start had a phenomenal get-go, absorbing the pressure so well. But then, Suhail, in the mid-pack, the fun, that really kicked off over there.
Yeah, that kicked off later in the race. Towards the first few laps, it was all clean racing. Akshay Bora with a fantastic getaway, a lights the flag win for him. But Rishon Rajiv in second spot. Shahan Ali Mohsin actually didn't get the cleanest getaway, but just had enough to keep his nose clean, and it was Rishon Rajiv in second, Shahan Ali Mohsin in third. But then that battle for fourth, you were talking about it earlier, that's when the spiciness came alive in this race. But at the front, it was such a good race for Akshay Bora. We talk about youngsters, 16 years old, 15 years old, 17 years of age. These guys showed plenty of maturity to just keep their wits about them, stay clean, keep their composure, and Akshay Bora was superb at doing just that.
And then eventually we had Akshay Bora holding on to that pressure from Rishon Rajiv. But it wasn't quite the cleanest race all the way through. We had a safety car because Arjun Chheda and Rohan Madesh having 2 separate incidents on their own. And so the field had to be bunched up. When that happens, the concentration of the drivers is tested so much. And kudos to Akshay Bora and Rishon Rajiv. They were holding on to it so well. But then we had the battle of the race. A 3-way fight for P4 between Rishabh Jain, Alex Sawyer and Cooper Webster. That was incredible.
Yeah, that was a really good battle. We talked about Cooper Webster starting in 9th spot, and I think it was really important for him to try and break through the pack, but he didn't quite do that. Yes, he moved across to P6 at the end, but Alex Sawyer, I think he drove a brilliant race. The 15-year-old from Vietnam, never done single-seater racing in the past, and hold on to P4 at the head of that battle between Rishabh Jain, Cooper and himself. To me, that was one of the drives of the race, but head and shoulders above the rest, lights the flag with the fastest lap under torrential conditions at the end. Akshay Bora taking the win to become India's first Indian F4 winner. That was a classy performance.
And what an amazing day of racing we've had all the way through. History has been made. The first ever Indian F4 race is under the bags. Suhail, thank you so much for your time right here. And folks, we'll be back tomorrow right here on Star Sports 2.
India, it's lights out and away we go. The FIA Formula 4 India is here. Along with the Indian Racing League, 36 drivers, 6 teams, 2 championships coming to light up the streets of Chennai. More thrills, more adrenaline and plenty of action with India's first night race at the heart of Chennai. Are you ready?